Chapter 1324. Qin Liuhe's face was dark as he ordered. Ask Duanmu Ting to gather all the troops in Wild Wave City and send reinforcements. The cultivator who sent the message was about to leave. Suddenly. Reporting to the marshal. Wild Wave City has been destroyed. Kang Teichu killed Duanmu Ting and his son, Shenlang Hu Songhai and Yuan Zihua, 3 nascent soul cultivators. Tens of thousands of troops have been annihilated. At this time, another messenger general flew into the black beast-headed cloud building and knelt down on one knee to make his report. What? Wild Wave City has been destroyed? Many marshals, generals and cultivators were enraged. Even the nascent soul overlords couldn't believe it. Kang Teichu, you deserve to die. How dare you kill my army? Qin Liuhe's eyes were bulging out of their sockets. He flew into a rage. This was an unbearable loss. Originally, he had led the army of cultivators straight in and occupied this world, which would have been a great achievement. He would have won over a few competitors and would have had an advantageous position in the competition for the position of Overlord of the Jade Lake and the sect master of the Heavenly Dao sect. But now he had become a sinner. If his father knew about this, he would be very disappointed in him. Kill him. Hu Songhai's father, the marshal of the Right Army Hu Yuanjiao, was a nascent soul cultivator. He was calm at first, but then his eyes turned red as if he were a prehistoric monster. He couldn't live under the same sky as his son was killed. Cultivators were also humans and they had emotions and desires. After hearing that his son had been killed, he had already regarded Jiang Tian as his mortal enemy and wouldn't let him go. I want to kill him and avenge my son. Huangfu Jiangshan also shouted. He was the lord of the Nether Sky world, a level 4-dimensional world. He had a noble status and a high position. Now his son Huangfu Pingtian had been beheaded with a single strike and his soul had been destroyed. Moreover, it was by an ant from Earth. How could he endure this? Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun also looked serious. It was the first time he walked out of the building and faced Jiang Tian. Everyone then saw. Patriarch Binding Sun was a middle-aged cultivator in a washed blue robe. He looked to be in his early 40s and had a handsome face with only a few wrinkles. There was nothing strange about him. However, his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, as if they had experienced countless years, and contained boundless wisdom and principles. He simply stood in front of the railing and did not release the slightest bit of mana. However, he floated in the air as if he was supposed to be standing there, as if it was natural. A nascent soul Heavenly Lord had already touched the edge of the laws of heaven and earth. Every move of a nascent soul Heavenly Lord was in accordance with the laws of heaven and earth. That was why they were called Heavenly Lords. We welcome old ancestor Binding Sun out of seclusion. Qin Liuhe, Huangfu Jiangshan, Hu Yuanjiao, and the other supreme experts all bowed as if they were seeing a deity. Heavenly Lords were the most respected beings in the Jade Lake world. Even a dimension world might not have a nascent soul Heavenly Lord. Worlds like the Heavenly Star World, the Heavenly Kingdom and the Redfield World didn't even have one. There were only a handful of nascent soul overlords in the entire Jade Lake. A nascent soul Heavenly Lord would be a powerhouse even in the ruins of deity and would be valued by the Emperor of the Ruins. Any nascent soul cultivator could defeat 100 or more golden core cultivators. Foundation establishment cultivators and chi refinement cultivators were like ants in front of them. So, it wasn't difficult for a nascent soul Heavenly Lord to wipe out a level 3 or 4 dimension world. Even the sect masters of the large sects and the secondary dominators had to lower their heads in front of Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun, who stood at the top of the Jade Lake. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun nodded and then looked at Jiang Tian with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Kang Teichu is only a golden core cultivator, but he can use the power of the Forbidden Zone. He's a monster. Only a golden core cultivator? So he can only use the Forbidden Zone once even if he can use a secret art. Huangfu Jiangshan said. Ancestor, please stand by the side and support me. I want to crush him with my own hands and avenge my poor son. Only by personally killing his enemy would he be able to dispel the hatred in his heart. He wanted to personally kill Jiang Tian. Well, he's very strange. He made me suffer loss just now. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun shouted, Everyone listen to me. Everyone listen to my command. Other than His Highness Lu Yi, all the other Golden Core Paragon and Nascent Soul Cultivators attacked together. The world of cultivators was full of killing and danger. All of them reached the top by stepping on the bones of others. So, in the eyes of the top cultivators, all rules and morals were just decorations. The most important thing was to kill the opponent at all costs. Ancestral patriarch Binding Sun knew that even a lion would use all its strength to kill a rabbit. Even though he had a 70% chance of killing Zhang Tian, he didn't dare to be careless. He wanted everyone to attack together and increase the chance of success to 100%. Yes. Ancestral patriarch. Instantly, killing intent soared into the heavens, filling the area within 100 miles. The Jade Lake army was very powerful and had a lot of trump cards and hidden masters. Even though Zhang Tian had killed more than a dozen Golden Core warriors, 3 nascent soul cultivators and more than a dozen peak stage Golden Core cultivators flew out and surrounded Zhang Tian after Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun shouted. Impossible. The Taichu Dominator killed so many people. How can there be so many overlords hiding in the Jade Lake army? We didn't get any information about them at all. 3 nascent soul cultivators and a dozen Golden Core perfected immortals. I'm afraid they can even destroy a city. This scene stunned all the cultivators in planet Tianxing. Even Bai Zhe Dinglai and the other top experts revealed looks of shock. The Jade Lake cultivators had different temperaments and dharma forms. Some were like flames burning the sky, some were as steady as mountains, some were as cold as ice, and some were as violent and bloodthirsty as beasts. However, each and every one of them had an extremely strong and dense Jin Yuan. Above the gigantic dharma figures, a great amount of Jin Yuan rose straight into the sky like a smoke signal. The aura released from them was like a tsunami, pressing down towards Zhang Tian. Kong Teichu, if I'm willing to surrender, I can spare your life and take you as my disciple. I'll let you and the cultivators of planet Tianxing go and protect the planet Tianxing for the Jade Lake for generations to come. You'll be the highest level slaves of the Jade Lake. Ancestor Binding Sun, who was at the highest point at the end of the battle formation, didn't release his dharma. However, he looked down at Zhang Tian with arrogance as if he were a god looking at an ant. He considered letting Zhang Tian become his disciple and slave as the greatest gift. 1 nascent soul cultivator, 3 experienced nascent soul cultivators and 13 peak stage Golden Core cultivators. Kong Teichu, do you dare to provoke them? Just as Qin Liuhe and the others smiled and thought Zhang Tian would yield, Qin Liuhe smiled. However, Zhang Tian didn't even care. He only said one word. Kill. He immediately swung the absolute sky sword and slashed towards everyone. Zhang Tian stepped into the air, his sword light was sharp and cold to the extreme, and the sword light soared into the sky with a whistling sound. The sword aura was endless and boundless. The power of the immortal artifact was at its maximum. Even a nascent soul cultivator couldn't resist it. At this moment, countless cultivators, whether they were from the Jade Lake or planet Tianxing, were dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Zhang Tian dared to attack with his sword in the face of such a powerful lineup. He was indeed domineering. Dai Hu Yuanjiao, who was eager to take revenge, was at the front and was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. He swayed and shouted. Immediately his dragon bloodline was activated to the maximum. A giant dragon rhino dharma form was formed behind him. The dharma form had the head of a dragon rhino, but it was already in the shape of a human. It was 3,000 feet tall and was full of strength. Its body was covered with dragon scales, like the most indestructible armor. Its defensive power was astonishing and could withstand a few nuclear explosions at close range. The avatar was extremely huge. From afar it looked like a demon god walking in the sky. It was holding a curved long blade that was shaped like a rhinoceros horn. It was waving it in the air, releasing countless bright lightning bolts. It looked like it could split a mountain and sink the earth with one strike. It was extremely powerful as it attacked towards Zhang Tian's sea of sword light. Whoosh! The absolute sky sword in Zhang Tian's hand was like a sea of sword aura. It didn't stop at all, as if Pangu had swung a giant axe and split the chaos. Zhang Tian's chaotic divine body was formed and his golden core was formed. He had the power to fight against a nascent soul cultivator. In addition, he had the absolute sky sword, which was passed down from an ancient cultivator. How could Hu Yuanjiao, who was only a nascent soul cultivator, compare to him? Playing. The dragon rhino dharma form had just collided with the sword aura of the absolute sky sword. The dragon rhino dharma form was like a piece of tofu that had been sliced by a sharp blade. Even though Hu Yuanjia was burning his dantian, using his secret technique to condense the Dharma form and roaring loudly, he still could not change the cruel reality that the Dharma form had been sliced apart. The absolute sky sword still slashed with force as if it were cutting water with a knife. There was no sense of resistance. Crack. After the dragon rhino Dharma form was slashed to pieces, the remaining power of the absolute heaven sword did not decrease. Instead it became sharper. In the end, the sword slashed through Hu Yuanjia's dantian, cutting his golden elixir, which had already become an infant embryo, into pieces. Boom. Hu Yuanjia's gold core, which was in the state of nascent soul, exploded with a loud boom. His fleshly body, which had been tempered by the physique refinement technique, turned into a rain of sparkling flesh and broken bones that shot in all directions. Even his divine soul was completely destroyed. In the blink of an eye. In less than a second, Hu Yuanjia, a nascent soul cultivator and the commander of the right army, died under Jiang Tian's sword. Until his golden core exploded, his face was still full of shock and disbelief. It seemed that he didn't expect Jiang Tian to kill him so quickly. Hu Yuanjia's death announced the start of this earth-shattering battle that concerned the fate of several dimensional worlds. It also made many overlords of the Jade Lake realize what kind of terrifying and nature-defying existence they were facing. Let's attack together. Seeing this, a cultivator in a green robe stepped out. He had silver hair and a pale face. His eyes were fierce and his body was full of murderous intent. With a wave of his hand, two treasured swords, one purple and one green, soared into the sky from his dantian. They turned into two shocking divine rainbows and charged towards Jiang Tian's sea of sword light. Chapter 1325. The Green-Robed Ancestral Patriarch. He used to be the sect master of the Een Mountain sect in the Jade Lake world. He was a nascent soul cultivator and had the purple and green dual swords Dharma forms. Dharma forms were an extension of the golden core level. Other than divine beasts, there were also weapons, Dharma artifacts and Dharma forms. The purple and green dual swords Dharma forms of the green-robed ancestral patriarch were extremely sharp. Their sword intent was closely connected to their immortal will and they were invincible. Even the realm lord of the Jade Lake and the sect master of the Tiandao sect had to fight for a few days to defeat him. Until then, he was a grand priest of the Tiandao sect and was highly valued by the sect master. His status was comparable to that of ancestral patriarch Binding Sunday. Me too. Another nascent soul overlord, Kong Wenxing, also activated his star-shaped Dharma power and attacked the sword aura like a meteorite. Let's fight together. Kill. I don't believe we can't break this blade aura. Led by Huangfu Jiangshan, the golden core overlords' dantians rumbled and their golden cores shone. Their Dharma forms expanded one after another and they tried to stop Jiang Tian. In the end, other than ancestral patriarch Binding Sun who didn't do anything, he stayed outside the array. Two nascent soul cultivators who were quasi-heavenly lords and 13 perfected immortals who had completed the golden core level attacked at the same time. With such a luxurious lineup working together to resist the enemy, how terrifying would their might be? They were definitely much more powerful than Yuan Zihua and the others at the moment. Be aware. Even though they were all nascent soul cultivators, their power was completely different. The two nascent soul cultivators of the green-robed ancestral patriarch had been nascent soul cultivators for decades or even centuries and were only a step away from the nascent soul level, which was why they were called little perfected cultivators and quasi-perfected cultivators. Either one of them was more powerful than Yuan Zihua and the others who had just entered the nascent soul level a year ago. On top of that, the 13 powerhouses of the Golden Core were attacking at the same time. The raging Qi was about to tear this vast land apart. Rumble. The earth-shattering true essence exploded, shaking the world. Each of their Dharma idols represented a type of attribute and element. They released tens of thousands of multicolored rays of light and thousands of colorful divine rainbows. In the end, the many rays of light merged into one and turned into a huge pillar of light that stretched across the sky. It shot toward Jiang Tian's sea of sword light. This pillar of light was filled with surging vital energy, interweaving and entangling with each other. It even caused spatial cracks to appear and spatial fragments to fly about in all directions. It was extremely powerful, as if it could pierce through the continent. They were all elites under Qin Liuhe's command. They often fought together against enemies and were very good at joint attacks. Their combined attacks were comparable to the full power attack of a mid-stage nascent soul overlord. Even ancestral patriarch Binding Sun wouldn't be able to handle it. What was shocking was that this pillar of light actually blocked Zhang Tian's absolute heaven sword light, as if it wanted to shake Zhang Tian's absolute heaven sword back. Haha. Kong Teichu, you've burned your blood essence to forcibly activate this sword, surpassing the cultivation of the gold core realm. The consumption must be no small matter. May I ask, how many more times can you activate this sword? You'll be dead if you can't use it again. While Qin Liuhe was mocking, Qin Liuhe and ancestral patriarch Binding Sun looked pleased. This is interesting. Zhang Tian only let out a soft sound of surprise. Then he formed a hand seal with his left hand and pressed it on the handle of the sword. He then yelled, "Return to essence." Within Zhang Tian's dantian, the Milky Way divine disc spun, and a black-scaled Taotai with goat horns bent into 9 bends and 18 bends charged into the sky. This black-scaled Taotia's head was large to the point it was disproportionate to its body and limbs, and it was like a small mountain. Its mouth was wide to the point it split open to the roots of its ears, and its numerous enormous teeth that were like steel blades and swords that had long drool hanging from them, and it revealed a greedy expression as it stared at everyone. Oh no. The Taotai seemed to want to swallow the heavens and the earth, and it was filled with a cruel and terrifying aura. All the Jade Lake's cultivators were startled, and they had a bad feeling. They only felt that the swallowing power was extremely terrifying, as if they were facing the most terrifying black hole in the universe. Their blood, true essence, and even their divine souls were about to be swallowed, and they would never be able to break free. What is that? It's the legendary Taotai. It's just his Dharma form. It's big but useless. It doesn't mean anything. Some of the ancestral patriarchs in green robes turned pale and exclaimed, while others tried to calm themselves down. How dare a bunch of ants guess the power of I, Kong Teichu? Forget it. Today I will let you Jade Lake cultivators see what is called true monstrous divine power, and what is called invincible. Hearing this, Zhang Tian suddenly sneered, full of ridicule. Then Zhang Tian yelled, "Return to essence. Taotai returns to its origin, swallow it for me." Boom. The Taotai swooped down and turned into a ray of black light, entering the sky-severing sword. An incomparably deep black vortex suddenly appeared above the absolute heaven sword. An incomparably vast, copious, and irresistible devouring power that seemed to be able to engulf the sun and moon, a power that could tear apart the earth and mountains, abruptly took shape. Whoosh. With just a snap of a finger, the huge light column that spanned across the void disappeared and was completely swallowed by the Taotai. Only the ancestral patriarchs in green robes and Kong Wenxing were able to withstand it. The other 13 cultivators at the exceptional stage of the Golden Core realm were instantly torn apart and squeezed into pieces, as if they had been caught by a black hole. Even their golden cores were torn apart and turned into profound qi, which flowed into the sky-severing sword and the black hole and disappeared. Before they died, their faces were full of horror and unwillingness, as if they couldn't believe that they had been killed by Zhang Tian so quickly. What? This is the power of swallowing. How can it be so terrifying? The ancestral patriarchs in green robes and Kong Wenxing exclaimed loudly, as if their souls had left their bodies. Then drops of blood appeared on their bodies and were pulled into thin lines by the power of swallowing, which then flew towards the sky-severing sword. Their skin was trembling like waves. Then their flesh was torn open, and even their gold cores, which were in the nascent soul stage, seemed to fly out of their bodies uncontrollably. Damn you, Kong Teichu. Seeing so many golden core cultivators die in an instant, ancestral patriarch Binding Sun was terrified and enraged. He had never thought that Zhang Tian would be so powerful. He could kill the peak stage golden core cultivators like killing chickens, so he didn't even have time to help. Stop. He immediately extended his hand and cast a forbidden realm towards Zhang Tian's sword of essence, restoring, trying to stop the power of swallowing. Binding Sun, do you think this is all I can do? Do you think you can save them? You've underestimated me. Zhang Tian burst into laughter. The divine disk in his dantian spun again and the galaxy shone brightly. Another divine body appeared. Arg. The Kunping divine body. The giant Kunping flapped its wings and seemed to be able to sweep through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It turned into a bolt of spatial lightning and charged towards Patriarch Binding Sun without hesitation, leaving a trail of spatial cracks in its wake. Crack. Poof. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden realm was broken before it could land, and he was knocked back with blood spurting out of his mouth. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was a nascent soul cultivator after all, so it was hard to say who would win against Zhang Tian's divine body. However, Zhang Tian only needed the Kun Ping divine body to buy him time. A few seconds would be enough. Therefore, the Kun Ping divine body only stalled Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun for a while and then retreated. After only 3 flicks of the fingers, the green-robed ancestor and Kong Wenxing could not hold on any longer. The star and azulate swords were completely destroyed. The 2 golden cores flew out of their bodies with a bloody mist and were swallowed by the black Taotai vortex. After that, their bodies exploded apart as well, and they transformed into crystalline flesh and broken bones that were like jade before they were completely devoured. At this moment, the entire area within a 100-mile radius of the city was in dead silence. The Taotia's origin returning godly body sucked in 2 nascent soul formation stage experts and 13 golden core perfection stage experts into oblivion. All the cultivators and mortals present, whether they were from the Jade Lake or planet Tianxing, were terrified by this scene as if they had seen a true god. That was 2 quasi-perfected cultivators and 13 perfected immortals. How terrifying was that? The most powerful ancestral patriarch in green robe had formed a golden core sword, and the purple-green sword dharma forms were comparable to real nascent soul cultivators. As for the second most powerful one, Kong Wenxing, he had comprehended the power of the stars and was said to be able to fight with a first-level nascent soul cultivator. Even with such an amazing lineup, they couldn't last more than 10 seconds under Zhang Tian's attack. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was also helping them, so they couldn't stop him. How terrifying was Zhang Tian's current power? How shocking was that? It made everyone suck in a breath of cold air as if they had a toothache. They're all dead. Qin Liuhe's eyes were wide open and he couldn't believe it. He felt like his heart was being stabbed and his voice was trembling. Those were his direct subordinates who he relied on to fight for power. Now they were all dead, making him a general without an army. How could he not be heartbroken? He's too powerful. How does he have so many dharma forms? And they all control the power of space. Even Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was dumbfounded. His hands trembled as if he had seen a demon, not to mention them. Chapter 1326. Qin Liuhe, you just asked the Taichu Dominator to submit to you and called us ants. What about now? When Bai Zhe saw this, he laughed out loud. He was delighted and mocked to the best of his ability. Qin Liuhe, you've finally seen what a real overlord is like, right? You've opened your eyes. You're just a frog at the bottom of a well. Ding Lai, Jiang Yunhe, and the other cultivators of planet Tianxing were elated. They felt as if the dark clouds in their hearts had been swept away. Brother Jiang won. Brother Jiang is invincible. The little girl, Qiao Yingluo, waved her fists and cheered for Zhang Tian. Father, can your spirit in heaven see this? The Taichu Dominator has avenged you. Jiang Yunhe even shed tears. He felt that the Jiang family's sacrifice and perseverance had finally paid off. Qin Liuhe, Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun, didn't you say that it's fair for the strong to bully the weak? How do you feel now that you've been defeated and humiliated? Even the shy and introverted fairy Miao Yi looked at him with disdain and mocked him. Her heart was filled with joy. Kong Taichu only defeated a few nascent soul cultivators. We still have Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun. At this moment Qin Liuhe's face was twisted as if he had eaten a fly. He shouted coldly. Kong Taichu won't be able to resist Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun. Besides, we still have a few grand perfected cultivators. Really? Let's wait and see. Goddess Miao Yi said coldly. Kong Taichu, you deserve to die. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun shouted furiously. He was a nascent soul heavenly lord and the elder of the Tiandao sect. He was invincible in the Jade Lake world. However, in his eyes, Zhang Tian was just an ant in the wasteland. He had actually forced him back with a single strike and killed many of his close friends. This was something he could not accept no matter what. Zhang Tian was only at the early stage of the elixir realm. Moreover, he came from the earth realm, which had no spiritual qi. Yet he was able to force him to retreat and kill so many people. If what happened today was spread to the Jade Lake, it could be said that even if the sect master of the Heavenly Road sect didn't do anything to him, he wouldn't have the face to stand in this world. Old bastard fury, it's finally your turn. Zhang Tian's eyes were as sharp as swords as he stared at Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sunday. His battle intent soared again and his killing intent surged. Kong Teichu, you will die today. Patriarch Binding Sun roared and suddenly reached out to grab Zhang Tian. He roared, today with the tassel in my hand I can bind the Azure Dragon. Boom. Space fluctuated as an incomparably vast and terrifying restrictive force was formed. Everything in the world instantly stopped. It was as if there was a long tassel in one's hand, capable of locking down space and sealing everything. Even if an Azure Dragon was here, it wouldn't be able to move. It would be confined and locked down, turning into a dead snake with a broken rope. Break. Zhang Tian frowned and shouted. He waved his sword and activated the Kun Ping Divine Body, breaking all the restrictive space. Nothing could stop him. Crack. The forbidden space cracked and Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun flew back a dozen meters. He didn't expect Zhang Tian's Kun Ping Divine Body to be so terrifying. Not only him but many other cultivators were shocked. Zhang Tian was only a golden core cultivator, but he was able to break the forbidden space of a nascent soul heavenly lord. This was like a legend. Kong Teichu, don't be so smug. This battle isn't over yet. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun roared and attacked again. Binding Sun net. Instantly, a giant net with a radius of 1 mile appeared. Every thread was glittering like a fishing net. It fell like a net and covered Zhang Tian's head. This net was completely formed by the laws of space and resonated with the world. The threads were like beautiful jade, shining brightly like a net of light. However, it contained a powerful energy that was 10 times more terrifying than the forbidden space of Chang'ing. It seemed to be able to trap the world, cut the world and tear everything apart. Be careful, Taichu Dominator. Bai Zai, Dinglai and the others all cried out in alarm, worried for Zhang Tian. Everything in the world had its own laws and rules. Normal nascent soul heavenly lords could only understand 1 or 2 of them. However, he only needed to comprehend 1 or 2 Daoists before he would be able to reach the pinnacle and transcend the mortal world. His every move would be able to form a great destructive force that was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than any other Abhijna, Vital Chi or Dharma form. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun used the net, Dao he had comprehended. He controlled the laws within and used it as a foundation to form a giant forbidden space. Once the net was cast, it seemed to be able to trap the sun and the moon and lock the world. It could easily tear apart golden core and nascent soul overlords. With this move, he could be called a Dao ancestor and stand at the top of the Jade Lake world. Even the sect master of the Tian Dao sect had to be careful. You're too weak. Unfortunately, the binding net that shook the Jade Lake was just child's play in Zhang Tian's eyes. Then within Zhang Tian's Dantian, the divine disc spun, and a resplendent Kun Ping formed behind Zhang Tian. This Kun Ping was completely formed by the resplendent stars, and it was about 1,000 meters tall. Its pair of gigantic wings were like heavenly blades, covering the sky and covering the sun. It was as if it could break through space, attack the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and soar through the 10,000 realms. The energy of the Kun Ping Dharma form was extremely terrifying, but it only appeared for a second. It then turned into a beam of light and went into the sky-severing sword. He swung the sword. As he swung his sword, a sword beam in the shape of a Kun Ping slashed out. The Kun Ping sword beam instantly twisted and transformed into a resplendent golden pillar of light. It formed a terrifying space-breaking power that seemed capable of ripping apart the sky, splitting the earth, and ripping apart the universe as it slashed towards the Fu Ri net. That slash had used the power of the Kun Ping from Zhang Tian's chaotic divine disc and was unimaginably powerful. The ground under Zhang Tian and Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun cracked, creating a giant gully that was dozens of miles long and a mile wide. The indestructible Binding Sun net was completely formed by Dharma laws. Under this sword strike they were as weak as paper and they were torn apart inch by inch. The laws turned into fragments that shot out violently and boiled before finally exploding with a bang. As for Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sunday, the Kun Peng's destructive power was too strong and its speed was too fast. He didn't even have time to dodge before his Dharma body was split in half. At that moment, both inside and outside of Desolate City, there was a deathly silence. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the figure in the sky, whose robes fluttered in the wind. He held a long sword in his hand and cut through the world. They felt as if a true god had descended. How is that possible? Our ancestral patriarch is a first-level nascent soul cultivator who has formed a dharma body. How could he be killed by an ant from Earth? Can't be. Many cultivators of Jade Lake were dumbfounded. After a long time, Xianxia finally spoke with a trembling body and a trembling voice, his face deathly pale. The arrogance and condescension in his eyes were replaced by deep fear. Yes. From the beginning to the end, even when he saw Jiang Tian destroy the army formation, heard that the Wild Wave City was destroyed, and even witnessed the 2 nascent soul stage experts and many gold core stage experts being crushed by Jiang Tian, he was not as terrified and shocked as he was now. That was a nascent soul heavenly lord. Even in the entire Jade Lake, there were only a few of them and they were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Some of the weaker third-level worlds didn't even have a nascent soul cultivator. Even in the ruins of deity, any family or sect would be proud if they had a nascent soul cultivator. They would definitely open their doors and invite all their friends to tell the world about it. Once a family or sect had a nascent soul cultivator, their power would immediately soar and they would become a large family. They would be valued by the emperor of the ruins and be given land and resources. And yet such a peerless overlord had been killed by Jiang Tian's slash. In fact, Patriarch Fu Ri was their greatest weapon. The other nascent soul cultivators, golden core cultivators, and the Jade Lake army were all here to gain experience. If Patriarch Fu Ri didn't hold back, this world would have been conquered long ago. Many cultivators of Jade Lake were startled and their legs trembled. They couldn't wait to run away from this dangerous place. Did Big Brother Jiang use this? Qiao Yingluo and Miao Yi Fairy were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Oh my god. That slash is too powerful. It contains even more powerful Dharma laws. It can break the dimension forbidden region and the laws. Its speed, strength and angle are all impeccable. Its lethality is terrifying to the extreme. Ding Lai's hands trembled as he shouted with a fanatical expression. The Lord of the Taichu sect is so powerful. I'm afraid that even my master, the sect master of the divine heavens, wouldn't be able to withstand it. Baizhe was also terrified. Does that mean that we finally have a heavenly lord in planet Tianqing? The cultivators of planet Tianqing were all excited after hearing that. They looked at Jiang Tian with admiration and their minds were stirred. The most shocked person was ancestral patriarch Fu Ri himself. The difference between a nascent soul cultivator and a golden core cultivator was like the difference between a mortal and a deity. Not to mention the amount of true essence. A nascent soul cultivator had already touched the laws of heaven and earth and formed a forbidden region. His body wasn't made of flesh and blood anymore but was formed with laws. His dharma form and his body had become one, as if he had reached another level of life. The laws of dharma laws and the power of a forbidden region were incomparable to the dharma form, divine powers and body of a golden core cultivator. The difference in power was too great and there was no way to resist it. Kong Teichu, how dare you hurt me? Ancestral patriarch Fu Ri yelled with hatred and indignation. This furious roar was like a thunderclap that shook the world. It tore apart mountains and rivers and shattered the earth. Everything within a radius of 50 kilometers trembled without end. Chapter 1327. After all, ancestral patriarch Binding Sun was a nascent soul overlord who was full of vitality and divine powers. He wouldn't die that easily. A golden core was formed by pure true essence, while a nascent soul was formed by the combination of energy and spirit. It was like a second life and its vitality was 100 times greater than that of a golden core. After being severely injured, he formed a new body with his dharma power and took out 5 true artifacts at the same time. Immediately, a multicolored light barrier enveloped him completely. Each of them had reached the level of a true artifact and were priceless. They could withstand several close-range nuclear explosions. But Jiang Tian's slash was even more terrifying. The dharma power formed by the Kunping was still in the mark and couldn't be erased. Those sword scars were formed by tiny Kunpings. They danced around the wound, exploded and then condensed again. The cycle repeated itself endlessly. With this method the wound would never be able to heal completely. You can withstand my slash. However, Jiang Tian's face was filled with shock and disappointment as he shook his head. He had just used the sky-cracking dome, the deity artifact, the sky-extinguishing sword, a divine-grade golden core and the Kunping divine body. Not even a nascent soul cultivator could withstand it. Ancestral patriarch Binding Sun didn't die because his dharma power was too strong. If Fiend Ancient Lake was there, he would have already died. However, Jiang Tian's expression made Chen Liuhe and the cultivators of the Jade Lake think that Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun should have been killed. Kang Teichu, you've successfully infuriated me. Today I'll crush your bones and scatter your ashes. I'll extract your divine soul and torture you every day. I'll let you watch as I break into earth and feed your parents to the dogs. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was enraged and yelled. Rumble. He burned his nascent soul and turned into a ray of light. His dharma power surged towards Jiang Tian like a river. This time he didn't hesitate to burn his nascent soul. His magic power was 10 times stronger than before, and he was already attacking with all his strength. Even if he killed Jiang Tian, his strength would drop by a level or even fall out of the nascent soul realm. You can't even get past me and you still want to break through the earth realm? What are you dreaming about? Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. He raised the absolute heaven sword and swung it down like a knife cutting through water. The same old trick again. Do you think you can kill me? Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun sneered. Jiang Tian's sky splitter was the power to split open space. Patriarch Binding Sun had long since anticipated this, so he retracted his true essence as much as he could in an attempt to resist the splitting power. How can this be? It's a completely different dimension power. But in the next moment, Patriarch Binding Sun turned pale with fright, as if he had seen a demon. He never thought that Jiang Tian's sword slash would be an extremely terrifying, devouring and compressing power. Patriarch Binding Sun felt as if a black hole had appeared in his body. Or it was more accurate to say that there was a mountain pressing down on him. This kind of power was abundant and hard to resist. He felt as though his spirit embryo was about to collapse and his indestructible nascent soul was about to be crushed. At this moment, his face was filled with shock, and there were traces of confusion in the depths of his eyes. He couldn't understand it all. Even the most powerful nascent soul overlords could only comprehend 1 or 2 types of laws and form a forbidden zone. However, the power of Jiang Tian's forbidden domain was completely different from the sky-splitting dome from before. It was even the opposite. But he didn't know. On Jiang Tian's godly plate, there were 9 galaxies that corresponded to 9 different types of godly bodies. They represented 9 completely different types of laws and principles. At this moment, Jiang Tian was using the Taotai origin returning godly body. The law of devouring was several times stronger than the darkest stone steel before it was refined. How can this be? No. Patriarch Binding Sun wanted to flee, but he couldn't move at all. His crimson-red eyes were instantly filled with anxiety, terror, rage, and defeat. His hair and beard fluttered in the wind as he roared like a madman. Explode. He changed his cultivation technique and burned his nascent soul blood again. Instantly the spirit embryo rumbled and trembled. Rolling true essence was pushed out from the spirit embryo in the form of ribbons, flowing out like a huge river. It was also like countless huge dragons soaring and dancing in the sky, as though they were holding up heaven and earth, trying to break free from the terrifying devouring and compressing force. He again. Create chaos and divide yin and yang. Jiang Tian chuckled, feeling that his scheme had succeeded. Then he swung his sword again. This sword was like an antelope hanging its horn, untraceable. The sword slashed across the sky, creating chaos and dividing yin and yang. The laws and power in Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's spirit embryo changed from origin returning to chaos. It was like the Big Bang. To Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun, it was like a spring that had been compressed to the extreme. The pressure suddenly disappeared and power was released. There was even an external force tearing and cutting. No. Under Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's desperate roar, his nascent soul expanded, cracked and exploded in all directions uncontrollably. His dharma body kept expanding and many laws were distorted and boiled. In the end, even his spirit embryo burst apart along with his corporeal body, turning into a rain of sparkling flesh, broken bones and broken jade that scattered down. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun. Dead. Haha, this is so satisfying. Jiang Tian held the sword in his hand and felt extremely comfortable. He couldn't help but laugh. Last time he had a hard time fighting Gu Hu, who was in the early stage of the nascent soul realm at the Tunguska demonic lake. He even had to sneak attack and use many dharma treasures. Although he could win with Dharma treasures, they were foreign objects after all. He couldn't control them as easily as he did now. The Grand Primordium Dominator won. Fairy Miao Yi, Jiang Yunhe, Ding Lai and the other cultivators were dumbfounded. They were extremely shocked. This was a real nascent soul realm cultivator. He had comprehended the laws of long tassels and net and formed a forbidden area. He was also a talented nascent soul cultivator. All golden core cultivators were as weak as ants in front of such an overlord. But now Jiang Tian, who was only a golden core cultivator, had killed him easily in a few rounds. It was like a legend. It was unbelievable. I thought I could suppress him for a while with my cultivation level and call him brother. Looks like I can only call him master in the future. His progress is too terrifying. It was even to the extent that Bai Zhe was greatly shocked and extremely shocked. After that, he revealed a resentful expression as he spoke with envy and jealousy. Brother Jiang is too powerful. Qiao Yinglua waved her fists and shouted. Then she put her hands on her hips and said proudly, Qinliuhe, didn't you say ancestral patriarch Binding Sun was very powerful? Why is he so weak? Qinliuhe, didn't you say our overlords were weak? Who's weak now? Is your face swollen? Fairy Miao Yi also sneered. Even ancestral patriarch Binding Sun is no match for him? Retreat. Qinliuhe was startled. He didn't have time to care about everyone's mockery. He gritted his teeth and made a prompt decision to escape in the direction of Star Capital under the protection of a few golden core cultivators. You should have run a long time ago. Isn't it a bit too late to run now? Seeing this, Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. He lightly shook his head, sighed and slashed out again. Crack! It flashed across the sky like a bolt of lightning. A terrifying line of blood appeared from Qinliuhe's head to toe. His golden core and dantian were split in half and then exploded in the air. But his divine soul was immediately captured by Jiang Tian's soul swallow. Run! Our commander is dead. The remaining members of the Jade Lake army were terrified. They ran in all directions like headless flies, but Jiang Tian punched and kicked them. In the distance, ancestral patriarch True Dragon flew over with Long Yanan and the black dog. They were all dumbfounded when they saw this. He destroyed the Jade Lake army so quickly? He even killed that nascent soul ancestral patriarch? Is the chaotic divine body so terrifying? Ancestral patriarch True Dragon couldn't stop trembling in fear. Ancestral patriarch Binding Sun had lived for 1,000 years, but he had reached the nascent soul level before him, so he must be extraordinary. He was worried that Jiang Tian might not be able to deal with it. Therefore, after using a thunderous method to suppress the Wild Wave City, he immediately rushed over, wanting to lend Jiang Tian a hand. He had brought Long Yanan here to use her as a threat to force the Jade Lake army to retreat. What he didn't expect was that when he arrived, Jiang Tian had already finished the battle and even killed the hidden nascent soul cultivator. We're doomed. Now I've become a prisoner. Long Yanan, on the other hand, had a bitter expression on her face. Her teeth chattered like machine guns as she muttered with a sobbing tone. She felt dizzy and her legs went soft. She almost fell. She knew the strength of the Jade Lake army and thought that Jiang Tian would definitely die if he attacked alone. Then she would have a chance of survival, but she didn't expect this outcome. The large black dog rolled his eyes and said gloomily, "This master is not very good. He destroyed so many golden core cultivators. What a waste of resources." Chapter 1328. The news that the Taichu ruler had returned and killed ancestor Tai Ri and Qinliuhe outside the barren city and annihilated the entire Jade Lake army swept across the entire Heavenly Star continent like a hurricane, shocking countless people. Star Capital City. It was located under the Heavenly Star Palace and was also the most prosperous city on this continent. It was now one of the most important bases of the Jade Lake army. The main branch of the Mandarin Duck House had always been popular. Not only were there many spirit herbs, spirit pills, dharma treasures, cultivation arts and other cultivation resources traded here, but there were also many beautiful female cultivators serving them. There were even cultivation furnaces for sale, which made it the favorite place of Star World's cultivators. But the most famous thing about this place was that it was an information broker. It was said that behind the Mandarin Duck House, there were more than a dozen famous chambers of commerce from Jade Lake and Heavenly Star. They spent a lot of money to hire a few artifact masters to build long-range sound transmission arrays in hundreds of branches of the Mandarin Duck House. Relying on these long-distance sound transmission arrays, basically, any news from this continent could be spread across the entire stellar sky world within a day. But today, although the Mandarin Duck House was still crowded with guests, it was unusually quiet. They didn't trade, play or chat, they just waited quietly. Even the maids didn't say a word and held their breaths. The cultivators present were almost divided into two distinct groups. On one side were the Jade Lake cultivators. They were all dressed luxuriously and had shiny Dharma artifacts. They were arrogant and sat on a higher floor. On the other side were the Heavenly Star cultivators. Their clothes were shabby and their faces were covered in dust. They were trembling in fear as they curled up in the corner of the hall like they were treading on thin ice, not daring to act rashly. Don't be so nervous, everyone. Kong Techu may have destroyed Wild Wave City, but that's nothing. You have to know that the army outside the Barren City has a nascent soul cultivator and 4 nascent soul cultivators. A middle-aged cultivator in luxurious clothes was leaning lazily on a soft couch, and he took a sip of immortal tea from a maidservant. Beside him was a female cultivator with a tall figure and a charming gaze, and she was lightly beating his legs, causing him to enjoy it. This Jade Lake cultivator was called Zhou Xian. He was a late-stage Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator and the battalion commander of the Star Capital's investigation camp. He was in charge of hunting and killing cultivators of the Heavenly Star domain who resisted. He could speak directly to the city lord and had quite a status. Not only him, in fact, all cultivators of a certain status Star Capital city were gathered here. There were even Golden Core Realm cultivators and sect masters and patriarchs masters. This was because a shocking piece of news had already arrived in the morning. Jiang Taichu had returned and broken through the Wild Wave City. No was ignored. News of the Heavenly Star World Continent Army was city. It should be known that since the Jade Lake's invasion, they had been invincible in attacking cities and conquering territories. They had never encountered any decent resistance. Today Kong Techu single-handedly defeated the defenders of a giant city and killed many nascent soul and golden core realm cultivators, including Duanmu Ting. This was the first time something like this had happened. Most importantly, following that another message came. Jiang Taichu immediately left the Wild Wave City and headed towards the desolate border city. The Barren City was the place where the main force of the Jade Lake army gathered. Wasn't Kong Techu courting death? That's not necessarily true. If Kong Techu wasn't 100% sure, why would he go to his death? An old Heavenly Star Realm cultivator with a stooped figure and turbid eyes gently shook his head. He was dressed in an old blue cotton robe. He was originally a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. He had a medium-sized sect, countless treasures and a happy family. But now his dantian had been destroyed and his cultivation had fallen to the body-tempering realm. One of his legs had been broken and couldn't be healed. He was no different from an ordinary person and even his sect had been robbed. Normally he would serve tea and water here, wipe the tables and chairs, greet visitors and serve Jade Lake's cultivators. He would earn some glittering crystal stones and chewing grains to maintain his livelihood. Humph Lu Qingfeng, you're dreaming. Nascent soul cultivators are called heavenly lords and killing golden core realm cultivators is like cutting grass. Zhou Bufan looked at the old cultivator and said sarcastically, Kong Techu is a reckless person. He's going to die this time. He's just a frog at the bottom of a well. Humph, does he think the Jade Lake cultivators are as vulnerable as Heavenly Star cultivators? Yes. Commander Zhou is right. The old man is talking nonsense. Lu Qingfeng didn't say anything else. He nodded and smiled respectfully. He limped forward to add water, but there was a trace of coldness in his eyes. He's just a golden core realm cultivator. In my opinion, if it weren't for the fact that he was holding Fairy Yanan hostage so that others wouldn't attack him for fear of breaking the vases, with his true ability, any deputy general of my Jade Lake army would be able to defeat him. A Jade Lake cultivator slammed the table and shouted. Heavenly Star cultivators are like chickens and dogs. They can't even withstand a single blow. Don't be delusional. Don't think that Kong Techu can change anything. Just accept your fate. Another Jade Lake cultivator glanced at the servants of the Heavenly Star Field and said with a smirk. Yes. That makes sense. Only the Jade Lake is qualified to be our master. Many Heavenly Star cultivators smiled and nodded. They seemed to have accepted their fate and didn't dare to resist. Here's the news. At this time, a ray of light lit up on the voice transmission platform and turned into a line of words. Everyone held their breath and looked at it. Kong Techu has arrived at a barren city. He killed Patriarch Binding's son, 3 nascent soul cultivators and 23 golden core realm cultivators outside the city. The Jade Lake army has been wiped out. The commander-in-chief Qin Liuhe has died. What? Zhou Bufan was so shocked that he jumped up when he saw the message. How is this possible? It must have been a mistake. Maybe they just took over a branch of the Mandarin Duck House and spread fake news to confuse the army. The other Jade Lake cultivators were also shocked. They couldn't believe it, as if they had seen a demon. This news was too shocking. To them it was like hearing an ant overturning an elephant. Stop drinking. Once the Wild Wave City falls, Floating Spear City will be next. I'm afraid we have to go and help Floating Spear City. Zhou Bufan was shocked for a long time, but he didn't dare to delay. He put on his armor and left with his men. General Zhou, you said you would accompany me tonight. How can you leave? Furthermore, I think this news is completely fake. How can Kong Techu fight with Qin Liuhe and defeat a heavenly monarch realm patriarch? Don't panic and make people laugh their heads off. She was the manager of this building. Her name was Golden Swallow, and countless cultivators wanted to get close to her. Her background was not small. She used to be an elder of the Heavenly Star Charm sect. Her cultivation was average, but her dual cultivation ability was powerful. She was extremely charming and could make people fall in love at first sight. After tasting it, they would be intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves. Don't go. If you dare to leave, don't come back in the future. Many maids moved and pulled the Jade Lake cultivators, acting coquettishly and shamelessly, not letting them leave. The cultivator called Third Brother hurriedly flew out on his sword, and the others sat down and continued to have fun. After a quarter of an hour, the sound transmission disc lit up with a second light, and another line of words appeared. Kong Techu led the Heavenly Star cultivators and Devil Cave Mountain cultivators to break through White Stone City, Maple Leaf City, Five Peak City, Floating Spear City. This time Jiang Tian pushed across tens of thousands of miles and broke through 13 cities. Although outside of Floating Spear City, they were all small and medium-sized cities, but it gave people a feeling of unstoppable force, making people's hair stand on end. According to the map, Jiang Tian's route was like a peerless heavenly sword, heading straight for Star Capital. Zhou Bufan's eyes were wide open and his face was pale. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. Kong Techu's speed was too fast. How was this attacking a city? This was clearly eating candy. He couldn't control himself anymore. He stood up and rushed out, saying, "Quickly, go to the city wall." Boom. At this time, a series of earth-shattering explosions came from above the city like rolling thunder. The cultivator called Third Brother flew over on his sword, covered in blood, and said in a trembling voice, "General Zhui, it's not good. Heavenly Star City's defensive formation has been destroyed, and the city lord and 3 generals have been killed." They attacked so quickly. In just one day they pushed across 90,000 miles and broke through 13 cities. Isn't this too fierce? Zhou Bufan released his divine sense and scanned outside. He was so scared that his legs went soft and he almost fell on his butt. Chapter 1329. In the sky above the city. A black-haired, black-eyed figure in a long robe was slaughtering like a god. Every time he attacked, thousands of Jade Lake cultivators would explode into a bloody mist. There was no difference between a Foundation Establishment cultivator and a Golden Core cultivator, only death awaited. What was even more frightening was that there were still many Heavenly Star cultivators and human cultivators gathering. The situation had taken a turn for the worse. Now the battle was completely in Heavenly Star's favor and nothing could stop it. Go to the teleportation array. Run. Zhou Bufan was scared out of his wits, but he immediately came up with a plan and rushed out with the soldiers. He didn't care about his property and concubines anymore. The most important thing now was his own life. As long as there was life, there was hope. There were endless dogs in Heavenly Star. As long as there was a spark, they would rise up and rebel. But it didn't matter. If Qin Liuhe died here, Tiandao sect and the entire Jade Lake wouldn't sit by and watch. They would definitely take revenge. By then they would massacre the city for 3 days, no, for 10 days. Zhou Bufan's imagination ran wild. As soon as he reached the door, Jin Yanzi caught up with him and hugged his arm. Commander Zhou, where are you going? If you're leaving, you must take me with you. Otherwise, I'll be punished by Kong Teichu. Take you with me? Get out. Zhou Bufan was about to curse. Suddenly, he felt a chill in his chest and a dagger had pierced his dantian. The blood-stained dagger in Jin Yanzi's hand was his own dagger. Kill. At the same time, led by Lu Qingfeng, almost a dozen maids and servants let out explosive roars and launched sneak attacks. There were casualties on both sides. In the blink of an eye, dozens of corpses fell to the ground. The ground was full of blood and broken limbs. A bunch of little sluts, how dare you plot against me? Zhou Bufan was furious. How dare a Qi refinement cultivator sneak attack me? Do you want to die? Jin Yanzi, captain of the 7th Battalion of the 3rd Army under Miyu Ferry from Wild Wave City, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Jin Yanzi held a blood-stained dagger in her hand. The charming and seductive look on her face had long since disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a cold killing intent. Her gaze was cold and sharp, and her voice was sonorous and powerful, like the cry of a sword. Originally from Floating Spear City under the command of Jianghaishan City's city lord, Captain Lu Qingfeng of the 9th Garrison Army's 2nd Elite Brigade, would like to experience your skills. At an unknown time, Lu Qingfeng had already changed into the standard military uniform of the Heavenly Star Cultivator Guard Army. His blood-red robe, which had been scorched and pierced through by the arrows, fluttered in the wind. He gripped the broken blade that the military had been equipped with a year ago, and shouted with a biting cold murderous aura. Bitch. Old man. All of you die. Even though Zhou Bufan was injured, his strength was still not weak. He pulled out his sword and slashed at Jin Yanzi and Lu Qingfeng. Jin Yanzi's cultivation base was low, and Lu Qingfeng was injured before. Without any cultivation resources, his vitality had long dried up, and his magic power was scattered. On the other hand, Zhou Bufan's sword was a spirit artifact-grade weapon, and he also had many protective artifacts. For a moment the two could only parry and had no strength to fight back. However, no matter how injured Lu Qingfeng and Jin Yanzi were or how much blood they had lost, they still continued to fight. The broken blade in their hands was still like a storm as they attacked Zhou Bufan. Zhou Bufan was so frightened by this life-risking fighting style that his legs trembled. They were simply unkillable cockroaches. Would their blood not stop flowing? How would he know that Lu Qingfeng and the others were not fighting alone? Jiang Haishan, Miayu, and the thousands of cultivators who had died for the Stellar Sky domain were now possessed by their souls and were accompanying them, giving them endless strength. Suddenly Lu Qingfeng was struck by a sword and it pierced through his chest. However, he did not retreat. Instead, he allowed the sword to pierce through his chest. He suddenly took a few steps forward and hugged Zhou Bufan tightly. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "Kill Zhou Bufan." Zhou Bufan was anxious. Kong Teichu and the others were about to break in and occupy many teleportation formations. He would not be able to escape. His entire body's quintessence surged as he punched Lu Qingfeng's back again and again. He did not know how many bones Lu Qingfeng had broken, and pieces of his internal organs were seeping out from his mouth. However, Lu Qingfeng's arms were still hugging him tightly like an iron hoop, not letting go. At this moment Lu Qingfeng could not feel any pain. As his blood and quintessence flowed out, his consciousness gradually became blurry. However, he seemed to hear Miayu, Jiang Haishan and countless dead comrades, family members, fellow disciples, and disciples encouraging him in his ears. "Qingfeng, go for it. Sect Patriarch, don't let go. Hang on for a while longer. The city will be breached and this evil thief will not be able to escape." Jin Yanzi, on the other hand, was crazily stabbing with her short blade. Although she was sent flying by Lu Qingfeng's astral winds every time, she still got up and stabbed again. When the Stellar Sky Domain's army arrived, Lu Qingfeng, Jin Yanzi and the others had all died in battle. They were almost all bloodied, but Lu Qingfeng did not let go of Zhou Bufan until his death. Many Stellar Sky Domain's cultivators were surprised and could not believe it. Lu Qingfeng's arms were shattered. Logically speaking, he should not be able to trap Zhou Bufan. However, for some reason Zhou Bufan was unable to break free. Zhou Bufan's dantian was pierced and he was captured alive. In order to separate the two, they had to cut Zhou Bufan into pieces. When Jiang Tian led Bai Zai and Ding Lai to kill the last Jade Lake cultivator and descended from the sky. Absolute beginning dominator, you are finally back. Absolute beginning dominator. The entire star capital was in jubilation. Both mortals and cultivators were so excited that they were crying. They knelt on the ground and paid their respects to this invincible master who had suppressed the Jade Lake's cultivator army and the Stellar Sky Domain's cultivators. How is this possible? However, those cultivators who had surrendered to the Jade Lake world were mourning. They thought that by becoming the Jade Lake's lackey, they would be able to obtain cultivation resources, reach the limit, increase their strength and enjoy endless glory and wealth. However, they did not expect that Jiang Tian would return in such a strong manner and become so powerful. Even the Jade Lake's army of more than 100,000 was crushed in one day. He turned the tide and took back the Stellar Sky Domain. Sai, we were wrong from the beginning. We underestimated Kong Techu. Someone shook his head and sighed. Regret surged in his heart. He knelt on the ground and shivered. His face was ashen. Hall Master Zhou. You are quite happy to be the Vice City Lord of Star Capital. Bai Zai's cold eyes fell on one of the people kneeling on the ground. Here. That person trembled and raised his head. It was Hall Master Zhou Xian of the Heavenly God sect. He was in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm and was highly regarded by Bai Zai. Later he surrendered to the Jade Lake and became the Vice City Lord of Star Capital. He was awe-inspiring and domineering. Now he was like a rooster who had lost a fight and was dejected. You surrendered to the enemy. According to the law, you should be executed. Bai Zai said coldly. This disciple knows his mistake. On account of my 200 years of loyal service to Heavenly Star, please let my family go. Zhou Xian's heart was like dead ashes. Whether we are to be spared or not. It's not up to me but up to the laws of the Heavenly Star. Bai Zai shook his head and said coldly. With a wave of his hand, the law enforcement hall's cultivators took him away. Zhang Yunhe, I now appoint you as the commander-in-chief. Command the entire army, investigate the traitors and punish them severely. Ding Lai said in a deep voice. Yes. This subordinate will not disappoint you. Zhang Yunhe clasped his hands and looked at Jiang Tian gratefully. He knew that this must be Jiang Tian's arrangement. Jiang Yunhe and a few elite cultivators led the army and left in a hurry. Bai Zai, Ding Lai, and the others bowed to Jiang Tian and said, Grand Primordium Ruler, please enter the palace and discuss the next step of the plan. Welcome back, Ruler. Many Heavenly Star cultivators and mortals shouted in unison. Jiang Tian came to the palace and everyone sat down. Jiang Tian first raised his hand and set up a soundproof array to keep Long Yanan outside. Then he flicked his finger and released Qin Liuhe's divine soul. Qin Liuhe was a nascent soul overlord after all, and his divine soul was very solid. He no longer looked arrogant and domineering. Instead he knelt on the ground and said, Grand Primordium Ruler, don't kill me. Jiang Tian asked, Is Jade Lake's invasion of Earth the Ruins Emperor's idea or did Jade Lake do it on your own? Hearing that, Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon's face turned slightly serious. He stared at Qin Liuhe, not letting go of any details. This was a very important question. If the ruins of immortality began to move and attack Earth, it would be a huge challenge and a true world-ending crisis. After all, Earth had just recovered its spirit chi and its foundation was still too weak. It was impossible to resist the ruins of immortality. It's the Jade Lake Heavenly Path sect's idea. We want to take down Earth and please the Ruins Emperor. No, it's the Ruins Emperor's idea, Qin Liuhe said bitterly. The Ruins of Immortality was located in the Centaurus constellation. It was 400 million light-years away from Earth. In addition, Emperor Zhongli had used the heaven-severing sword to cut off the ancient path of the universe. Many teleportation arrays were damaged and lost their teleportation function, making it difficult to cross the void. The Ruins Emperor's strategy was to take down the dimensional worlds one by one and push towards Earth. But when they rushed to the third-level dimensional worlds like Jade Lake, Dragon Gate, Baiming and Penglai, they had already expended a lot of energy. Many cultivators from the Ruins of Immortality had died in the war and space travel. They couldn't afford to expend more energy. The most powerful cultivators and leaders of the Ruins of Immortality who arrived in the third-level dimensional worlds mostly had the strength of a nascent soul cultivator. They monitored the world on behalf of the ruins of immortality, and their words carried weight. Everyone, from the realm lords and rulers to the commoners, had to listen to their orders and didn't dare to disobey. They were called the Special Envoys of the Ruins Emperor, the Envoys of the Ruins of Immortality, or simply the Ruins Envoys. There were already very few Ruins Envoys. There were usually only 3 to 5 of them in a world. They didn't want to fight in person. Most of them controlled and commanded the cultivators in the 3rd level and 4th level dimensional worlds to push towards Earth. But Jade Lake was already outside the solar system, billions of miles away from Earth. They needed to use spaceships every time they traveled through the dimensional worlds, which cost a lot of energy. They would also encounter strange attacks and battles. It was truly an expedition. Although Jade Lake was closer to Earth, it was already within the gravitational range of the twin stars of the South Gate. The expedition had started more than 20 years ago. They had spent a lot of resources and lost more than half of their people to reach this place. However, they did not expect that they would run into a monster like Zhou Xian, causing them to be completely wiped out. They tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. This was a huge defeat. The Ruins Envoys already have the power of a nascent soul cultivator. With such strength, even if there aren't many of them, it's not difficult for them to take over Earth. Ding Lai suddenly frowned and said, "They can do it themselves. Why don't they do it themselves?" Chapter 1330. Bai Zai's eyes flashed and he felt a chill in his heart. Patriarch Tai Ri, a second-stage nascent soul realm cultivator, was already invincible and almost took over the stellar sky domain. If several emissaries of the ruins of nascent soul realm worked together, wouldn't the stellar sky domain be destroyed in a matter of minutes? "Senior, you don't know," Qin Liuha hurriedly said. "In fact, the emissaries of the ruins of ruins want to take over the Earth domain more than the Jade Lake. The ruins of immortals once carried out very cruel experiments and countless nascent soul realm cultivators died, but in the end they all failed. It is said that there are some ancient teleportation arrays in the ruins of immortals and many other dimensions. I don't know if they were left behind by Emperor Yu, Emperor Ao, or even more ancient beings. These ancient teleportation arrays can form realm holes between different dimensions. Realm holes are like special tunnels that can distort time and space, and extremely close and connect the barriers between 2 dimensions. They can achieve ultra-long distance travel in an instant." After he finished, he glanced at Zhou Xian as if worried that Zhou Xian didn't understand. "Continue." Zhou Xian nodded, but he was already slightly surprised. Of course, Zhou Xian knew about the existence of realm holes. He had even created many of them in his previous life. It was just that he lacked the right materials and materials. Even the cleverest housewife couldn't cook without rice. Realm holes were like wormholes in the universe that could achieve ultralight speed travel. However, realm holes were man-made. Most of them used extremely advanced teleportation arrays. More powerful cultivators, such as those who had gone through a tribulation, would even use more advanced runes and arrays to form special tunnels that could travel through time and space. The teleportation arrays that formed realm holes were also called realm arrays. They could achieve ultra-long distance travel, surpass the speed of light, cross the universe and jump between different galaxies. They were the most complex and advanced teleportation arrays. Realm arrays and ordinary teleportation arrays, in short, were like supersonic fighter jets and walking on foot. They couldn't be compared. Ordinary teleportation arrays could only achieve ultra-long distance travel of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of kilometers on a continent. It was already very difficult to create teleportation arrays that could travel more than 1,000,000 kilometers. They required even more advanced materials and extremely advanced array formation techniques. Zhou Xian had noticed this before. The stellar sky and heavenly state were not far from the solar system, and they weren't far from Earth. The teleportation formation used to enter these envoys was still considered an ordinary one. Zhou Xian didn't expect that in a higher-level world, there would be a world array that could create a world whole. At this moment, Zhou Xian could not help but suspect that the cultivation civilization on ancient Earth might be much more powerful than he had imagined. It's said that when the Ruins Emperor first occupied the ruins of immortality, he discovered a world cave-grade teleportation array. Many ruins of immortality cultivators attempted to travel to secondary dimensions like Heavenly Star. Qin Liuha's soul was filled with deep fear. It kept expanding and shrinking as if it were about to collapse. However, they immediately disappeared. Some turned into ashes and some didn't even leave behind ashes. Even a nascent soul cultivator wouldn't be able to resist it. Bai Zai, Ding Lai and the others looked at each other in disbelief. Jiang Tian smiled faintly, already somewhat understanding in his heart. Later, after the research of the array masters under the Ruins Emperor, these world cave-grade teleportation arrays, including the dimensional barriers of each dimension, have an automatic detection function. The array spirits can identify and kill the ruins of Immortality's overlords. And the Jade Lake lineage is still a descendant of ancient Earth, so we aren't restricted. So, speaking of this, he seemed to show a bit of shame. Indeed. Patriarch True Dragon said. Usually, the world cave from a third-level world to a fourth-level world would have problems, preventing the ruins of Immortality cultivators from passing through. However, most of the world caves from the ruins of Immortality to the second-level and third-level worlds are normal. As a result, they can't take the final step of the Ruins Emperor no matter what. Therefore, the ruins of Immortality cultivators often can't pass through the world caves to break into the fourth-level worlds like Heavenly Star. They can only use the overlords from the third-level and second-level worlds that they have already conquered. In other words, the ruins of Immortality cultivators who can't use the world caves to travel quickly have to go around the fourth-level worlds if they want to attack Earth. In other words, they can't use them as a springboard. They can only use the most primitive interstellar travel and arrive on space battleships. Patriarch True Dragon made the final decision. Why would such a situation happen? Everyone looked at each other in confusion. It's actually very simple. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment with his eyes focused. He already understood and nodded. When the ruins of Immortality arrived at the Southern Gate Twin Stars, the Ruins Emperor from the Southern Gate Twin Stars immediately showed his claws and fangs and started a war with the Ao Emperor or his successor. He massacred the cultivators of ancient Earth on a large scale. The Ruins Emperor was very powerful. He didn't even need much time to occupy the ruins of Immortality and push his way to the second-level and third-level worlds. But the Ao Emperor and the others also had a communication system. Just like the Dragon Whiskers in the Dragon Gate world, they began to send messages to the worlds that were still sailing, asking them to stop advancing and at the same time, close the dimensional barrier. Patriarch True Dragon's expression changed slightly after hearing Jiang Tian's words. There were indeed such words in the image disk array left by Senior Dragon Whiskers. However, I didn't expect that the so-called closing of the dimensional barrier wasn't that simple. Instead, it was closing the world cave or creating some kind of verification function. Ding Lai smiled in relief. So, at the end of the day, the Ruins Emperor and the others can't invade our fourth-level worlds personally. Around him, several generals and important ministers nodded in agreement, revealing joyful expressions. Don't be careless. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed as he said, the Ruins Emperor is no ordinary person. The Southern Gate Twin Stars behind him can't be underestimated either. They've been coveting Earth for tens of thousands of years. Also, there are many experts and geniuses in the ruins of Immortality. Do you think that billions of cultivators can't think of a way to break the dimensional barrier and travel through space after tens of thousands of years? Bai Zai, Ding Lai and the others froze. Bai Zai nodded in agreement. Yes, cultivation resources are limited, but the desire of cultivators to become stronger and the cultivation civilization to expand is endless. Who doesn't want to conquer the universe? Master, there's something I don't understand. It's been bothering me for a long time. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon pondered for a while and suddenly asked. The ruins of Immortality is the biggest world formed when the ancient Earth began to wander the universe. The spirit chi there is also the richest. The land there is endless, spirit veins gather like dragons and spirit springs are everywhere. Even the drinking water of mortals contains a lot of spirit chi, so there are many golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. In the third-level worlds, golden core cultivators can be considered giants and ancestral patriarchs. But in the ruins of Immortality, only nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators can become ancestral patriarchs. Compared to the ruins of Immortality, the other worlds are nothing. The Earth realm was even more desolate. Why do they have their eyes on Earth? Of course, you can say that there are remnants of planet extermination on Earth. Once the spirit chi recovers, it'll be extremely suitable for cultivation, comparable to the ruins of Immortality. But that's only comparable. The spirit chi of the ancient earth that both sides occupy should be equal. There's no need to go to the ruins of immortality for something far away. The universe is full of danger. Every civilization is a hunter and a prey at the same time. How can we let others sleep beside us? Bai Zhe looked at the sky and heaved a sigh. Bai Zhe, there's the deity trap array on Earth and the ancient path of the universe has been cut off. Of course, this might be because Ao Huang wants to stop the destroyers from attacking. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon said. Objectively speaking, it's true that Earth has become a dead planet with no spirit chi and no cultivators. Earth is on the path of a technological civilization. It's impossible for humans to travel to the South Gate twin planets with their technology. When Bai Zhe heard this, he also felt that it made sense. Jiang Tian looked at the deep starry sky and suddenly smiled, saying, "That's right. If I'm right, the ruins of immortality and the South Gate twin planets are also facing a crisis." What? Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. In their minds, the ruins of immortality was a sacred place for cultivation. How could it be facing a crisis? But if that wasn't the case, they couldn't explain their desire for Earth. Crisis? What kind of crisis is it? Is it an invasion of the universe? The first thing that came to Bai Zhe's mind was the universe. Some of them looked at Jiang Tian and some looked at Qin Liuhe's divine soul. Qin Liuhe shook his head and said, "I've never heard of a crisis in the ruins of immortality. The ruins envoys have always said that as long as we are loyal and fight the enemy, we can go to the ruins of immortality and enjoy endless cultivation resources." There's no crisis, or Qin Liuhe doesn't know? I think what the primordial lord said makes sense. Everyone was confused. There are too many calamities of Armageddon. As for what they are, I don't know. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of profoundness, but his expression was still calm and composed. He chuckled and said, "You all know about the great changes on Earth in ancient times and have been through some hardships. But in essence you are still the same as Earth. You take survival for granted. But in fact, from the perspective of the universe, the survival and continuation of a civilization is extremely lucky and has a very low probability. The universe isn't as peaceful as we think it is. Not only are dangers lurking everywhere, but there are also countless world-ending catastrophes. What the Lord said makes sense. As the saying goes, we are born in hardship and die in peace." Bai Zhe, Ding Lai, and the others all seemed to have been enlightened. They revealed looks of realization, but they also felt a little ashamed. No matter what their crisis is, we only need to know that the ruins of immortality are determined to take over Earth. That's enough. Jiang Tian said faintly. As for how to pass through the realm hole or forcefully break through the world barrier, I think the Ruins Emperor and the others will definitely figure it out. It's just a matter of time. It's just that they will have to pay a heavy price. Then what should we do? Ding Lai immediately panicked. Of course he was not a coward. It was just that the war that had lasted for more than a year had made him realize the strength of the Jade Lake cultivators. Moreover, the Jade Lake was only a relatively powerful third-grade world. There were even more powerful second-grade worlds and the ruins of immortality above them. What should we do? Fight. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with a sharp killing intent. He flung his sleeves and stood up. A terrifying killing intent and battle intent swept out like a raging wave hitting the shore. He said coldly, "We have to strike first before they invade. We have to attack the ruins of immortality and catch them off guard." Chapter 1331. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled. At the same time, they were full of awe and respect for Jiang Tian. It turned out that in their hearts, the ruins of immortality was high and unshakable. They didn't even dare to think about attacking the ruins of immortality. Only Bai Zhe looked excited and shouted, "Master, are you going to conquer the Sea of Stars? I can't wait." Strictly speaking, that's right. Jiang Tian smiled and nodded. The dimensional worlds of Qia, Kanglin, and Tianqing were still within the solar system. But the ruins of immortality had already reached the twin stars of the South Gate, which were completely independent of the solar system. Even the second-level dimensional worlds had entered the gravitational range of the twin stars of the South Gate. Some third-level dimensional worlds had already rushed out of the solar system and used artificial suns or Dharma artifacts to collect starlight. From this point of view, attacking the ruins of immortality and the higher-level dimensional worlds was already the first step to conquering the Sea of Stars. "Brother Taichu, I think we should first attack the third-level world, Jade Pool, and then the second-level world. Then we should go all the way and finally attack the ruins of immortality. Bai Zhe suggested with anticipation. The ancestral patriarch True Dragon looked worried and said, according to the original sequence, Tianxing, Kanglan and Xia are all third-level Dragon Gate worlds. But Jade Pool used these worlds to attack the Tianxing and Kanglan worlds. I think the Dragon Gate worlds have already met with misfortune. He looked at Jiang Tian and said seriously, Master, we should first take back the Dragon Gate, Xia and Kanglan worlds. Only by maintaining the stability of the rear and ensuring the safety of Earth will it be meaningful to take down Jade Pool. That makes sense. Jiang Tian nodded and said, has the teleportation array from Tianxing to Dragon Gate, Xia and Kanglan worlds been repaired? It has been repaired. Ding Lai bowed and replied, Jade Pool is occupied by Jade Pool. However, the Blue Billow world has been occupied by the Jade Lake. As soon as a Heavenly Star Cultivator enters, they will immediately be attacked and killed. Although the Xia world hasn't been occupied, they are extremely afraid of Jade Pool. Every time the cultivators of Tianxing enter, they will collect a lot of crystals, Dharma artifacts, spirit herbs and other cultivation resources. Speaking of this, he had already revealed a deep anger. Originally, the Earth realm was the ancestral land of all the dimensional worlds. Without the ancient Earth, these dimensional worlds would not exist. As the last bastion of Earth, these dimensional worlds should fight for their ancestral lands. However, they had either surrendered to the ruins of immortality, forgotten their ancestors and wanted to attack the world of Earth, or hit them when they were down and took advantage of the situation. It could be said that they were extremely despicable. Most of the teleportation portals from Kanglan and Xia worlds to Earth are rotten, or the coordinates are wrong. Otherwise, they would have attacked Earth with Jade Lake long ago. Bai Zhe's eyes flashed with killing intent as he said angrily, if that's the case, what the True Dragon Patriarch said makes more sense. We must first take down Songlan and Qi worlds. Otherwise it will be really troublesome. Jiang Tian's eyes also revealed a hint of seriousness as he said, the transportation array is rotten. The cultivators of the Blue Wave world can't repair it, but it's too easy for the cultivators of the Jade Lake. Their strength isn't even on the same level. Jiang Tian said with a cold look in his eyes. Once these teleportation portals are repaired, it will be very easy for the cultivators of the Jade Lake to enter Earth. Earth has just recovered its spirit chi and its foundation is still weak. There aren't many overlords there and they can't withstand the torment at all. Besides, my old friend Zhang Qianlei has been in Xia for several years and we don't know if he's still alive. So we should take down Songlan and Xia worlds first. Ding Lai, make a trip to the Earth realm and ask Lotus Tathagata to take charge here. Jiang Tian ordered. He must be a nascent soul overlord. If he stays here, even if the Jade Lake world invades again, he won't be afraid. Besides, if the Jade Lake world wants to come to this world, they will have to break the dimensional barrier by force. It's safe for the time being. Yes. Ding Lai bowed and said. Jiang Tian stood up and a cold killing intent was released from his body as he said, Bai Zhe True Dragon Dahe Ding Ling Ding, follow me into the Xia world. The rest of you guard this world. Yes. The True Dragon Patriarch was energized and Ding Ling Dang was eager to go. Bai Zhe also looked forward to it. Saliva dripped from the large black dog's mouth and he said, this is awesome. Now there's another golden pill to eat. While Jiang Tian and the others were preparing to enter the Xia and Songlan dimensions, the Jade Lake world had already received the news of Qin Liuha and Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's death and was completely terrified. In the depths of the boundless mountain range, behind an ancient and towering stone door, there was an enormous stone platform and teleportation formation that covered an area of 5 kilometers. It was densely covered in talisman formations, and all of them were extremely rare and profound spatial talisman markings. Above the stone platform, waves of light vibrated, storms changed and the dimension shook violently. Around the stone platform, a group of cultivators in armor with halberds in their hands and swords around their waists stood in the air, looking around vigilantly. Each of them was above the mid-stage foundation establishment level and was very powerful. If they were on Earth, they would have surpassed sky immortals and could be called ancestral patriarchs. But here they were common and could be found everywhere. Many ancient bronze ships rose and fell on the giant stone platform from time to time. They either tore the dimension open and flashed or shot into the sky and disappeared. There were even cultivators riding on swords. They seemed to be very busy. This was one of the biggest universal docks in the Jade Lake world. The cultivators here could travel between worlds because of these ancient stone platforms. Lord Lioha has been gone for a year. I'm afraid there will be good news soon. A general in golden armor said seriously, but he was actually communicating with a few guards. I heard that there are only a few golden core cultivators in the stellar sky domain. Ancestral patriarch Binding Sun is a nascent soul heavenly lord. It's like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. As the most powerful sect in this world, the Heavenly Dao sect basically represented the cultivation world of the Jade Lake world. The sect master of the Heavenly Dao sect was also the realm lord of this world. The realm lord was also the king of the mortal world. Under the king there were many countries and sections. Correspondingly, Qin Lioha was not only a Zongzi but also a prince. He was also the commander of the army. That was why they were called lords. That's right. Another guard nodded. Then he frowned and sent a voice transmission. However, I don't know why Lord Lioha is willing to take such a huge risk to take the stellar sky domain. I heard that the stellar sky domain's array formation was destroyed long ago. The spirit chi is unstable and miasma is everywhere. It's not suitable for cultivation. It's like a remote village. No golden core cultivators can emerge in a few hundred years. That's right. Even if Lord Lioha takes the stellar sky domain, he won't get any benefits. I've heard that the other princes are all actively performing and making contributions in order to fight for the throne of the country. Lord Lioha's action is. One of the defenders added worriedly. They were all warriors under Qin Lioha's command. Qin Lioha's situation was related to their honor and benefits. You don't understand this. The general in golden armor seemed to have a card up his sleeve. He smiled meaningfully and said, Lord Lioha is very talented. His Highness Lu Ho is such a great strategist. The stellar sky domain is just one stop on his expedition. His target is the Earth domain. The Earth domain? Everyone felt lightheaded. Rumor had it that the Earth domain was an ancient planet that had been abandoned for a long time. It did not have any spirit chi. It was no longer a remote village but a wasteland. That's right. The Earth domain is Lord Lioha's target. More importantly, he is the target of the ruins of Immortality Emperor. The general in golden armor's eyes shimmered as he said something shocking. If he succeeds in this battle, he will definitely be rewarded by His Majesty. Ignoring the Jade Pool world, even the desert world above us will be in Lord Lioha's hands. No one will be able to stop him. The moment he said that, is that true? Everyone was shocked. Then they were overjoyed. Indeed, the Ruins Emperor was high and mighty. He was a man of his word. No one dared to disobey his orders. As long as Qin Lioha was valued by the Ruins Emperor, it would be like having divine help. No one would be able to stop him from rising. As the saying went, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. As the generals under Qin Lioha, they would also receive benefits of varying magnitude. Just as the general in golden armor was about to say a few more words, suddenly, a light flashed on the teleportation array's stone platform. A small and exquisite bronze flying shuttle descended. This kind of flying shuttle was actually a battleship used to travel between worlds. However, it was smaller and faster. It was usually used to transmit messages. It's Lord Lioha's communication battleship. Spec. Could it be that he has already conquered the stellar sky domain and even the Earth domain? Many of the generals were overjoyed as they hurried forward. The door of the flying shuttle opened. A golden core soldier with a shattered dantian stumbled and fell to the ground. He shouted weakly, "Hurry up and report to the sect master. Lord Lioha's stellar sky expedition army has been completely annihilated. Patriarch Binding Sun is also dead. The stellar sky domain has fallen." At that moment, all the generals and soldiers were dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded as if they had been struck by lightning. How did this happen? Wasn't the stellar sky domain about to be conquered? How did it fall again? Also, there are no nascent soul experts in the stellar sky domain's resistance army. How could they have killed Patriarch Binding Sun? After a long while, the golden armored general finally spoke with a shocked expression. Everyone around him was speechless. They couldn't answer this question at all. This was too bizarre. It was like hearing that a newborn baby could kill a powerful self-cultivator with a single punch. It was simply unbelievable. No matter what, this is a big deal. A big deal that can pierce the heavens. Lord Liuhe is the most beloved son of the sovereign realm's realm lord. A general said with trembling hands. Yes, yes, yes. I have to go see the realm lord immediately. The golden-armored general raised his hand and grabbed a light image-imprinted array disc. Then he rose into the air and flew into the distance. In any case, he was a false core stage cultivator, but in his extreme fear he actually fell to the ground and tumbled. Lord Liuhe's expedition army has been completely annihilated in the stellar sky domain. Lord Liuhe, Patriarch Binding Sun, 3 nascent soul cultivators, and dozens of golden core realm cultivators have all died. Soon this earth-shattering news swept across the entire Jade Lake world like a hurricane. Countless cultivators were dumbfounded. Chapter 1332. This news was too sensational. Many people didn't believe it when it first came out and laughed it off. It was like the biggest joke in the world. In fact, it was difficult for the Jade Lake to go through the world hole and break the world barrier. Defeating the cultivators of the Heavenly Star Realm was just a piece of cake. Who would believe such a piece of news? Many people even reported this to the Heavenly Dao sect, wanting to capture this group of people who wantonly spread rumors and messed with people's hearts. It can't be true, right? But gradually some people started to doubt it. The Tian Dao sect and the Heavenly Lord families didn't arrest those who spread the rumors. Instead, they started to gather the disciples who were traveling outside and asked them to return to their ancestral lands. Many rare talents and old monsters who had lived in seclusion for hundreds or thousands of years showed up one after another. Translator. Hengyi Translations Editor. Hengyi Translations. There were thousands of Heavenly Lord families and sects in the Jade Lake world. Each Heavenly Lord family had one or several nascent soul cultivators. With the approval of the Emperor, they controlled a vast territory and had to pay respects to the Lord of the Realm and be called lords. The system was very similar to the Wuxia and the Zhou dynasty, which used the system of a state, but the upper echelons were very close. So the news of the changes in the Heavenly Star Realm had spread throughout the upper echelons in half a day. All the Heavenly Lord families and sects knew about it. At the Duanmu family, in a magnificent palace, an elder with white hair and a white beard sat on the dragon throne. His eyes were deep and wise, as if he controlled the laws of the world. His every move was in harmony with the laws of the world. He was obviously a nascent soul Heavenly Lord. He was the living fossil of the Duanmu family, Duanmu Guang. He had been a nascent soul cultivator for almost 1,000 years and reached the 3rd level of the nascent soul level 200 years ago. Even ancestral patriarch Binding Sun had to be respectful to him and call him a junior. Duanmu Ting and Duan'er were both killed. We have to avenge them. The living fossil shouted loudly. Gather all the senior members of the family and attack the Heavenly Star Realm. This old man is going to smash this world into pieces and kill everyone. As soon as he spoke, it was as if the space within 100 miles was trembling and fluctuating, causing one's heart to palpitate. Yes. The many elders standing in the hall bowed in unison, their killing intent dense. At the Hu clan of the Dragon Rhino Nation. Ancestor. The clan met with calamity. The current clan head Hu Yuanjia and the candidate for the next clan head Hu Songhai both died in battle in the stellar sky domain. An elder of the Hu family walked to the edge of an unfathomably deep abyss that was shrouded in clouds and mist. He used his divine sense to send a message and knelt down to confess. Rumble. A dragon rhinoceros that was thousands of meters long and covered in dense scales suddenly flew out on a cloud. It was like a huge mountain that covered the sky. His angry eyes were like divine lamps, illuminating thousands of miles as if they could pierce through everything. His voice was like rolling thunder. Since when did the stellar sky domain dare to provoke my Jade Lake Heaven Monarch clan? Could it be that I have been in seclusion for so long that the world has forgotten my name? His figure flashed and transformed into a tall and sturdy man, landing on the edge of the cliff. He was clad in dragon scale armor and his battle robe was crimson red. He held a peerless heavenly blade that looked like a rhinoceros horn. He was majestic and domineering. Besides, the thousand-tailed Black Fox clan, the Shin family, the Mixed Essence sect, the Overlord sect, the Scorching Fire sect, many nascent soul heavenly lords and living fossils that had been in seclusion woke up from their seclusion or cultivation and turned their attention to the stellar sky domain the moment they heard the news. Some were shocked and confused, some were furious, some were full of killing intent, and some were watching with great interest. The Heavenly Dao sect, the top sect in the Jade Lake world, was located in the Kunyun Mountain. In a palace that was paved with green jade and surrounded by clouds, there was a golden dragon pillar that supported the sky. Enveloped in clouds, the majestic Emperor Qin Qing sat at the head of the table and listened to Qin Liuhe's report on the great changes in the stellar sky domain. Punish them severely, we must punish them severely. If they kill one of our nascent soul heavenly lords, 10 of our heavenly lords will attack them together. We will destroy the star world directly. A black-faced nascent soul stage elder with a rough face was already roaring loudly with rage written all over his face. Although all the families, sects and states had suffered great losses, the Heavenly Dao sect was still the one that suffered the most. There were only 5 nascent soul overlords like ancestral patriarch Binding Sun in the Heavenly Dao sect. One less was one less pillar. Especially since Qin Liuhe was the chosen prince. This time he represented the Jade Lake to conquer the stellar sky domain to make a name for himself and gain the support of the ruins of deity. From then on he would be able to control this domain for 1,000 years and maintain peace. If the ruins emperor thought highly of him, he would even have the chance to promote this domain to a second-grade dimensional world and gain endless benefits. However, all these beautiful ideas and plans had been destroyed by Zhou Xian. How could the Heavenly Dao sect not be angry? Besides, the elites of the other families and states that had died in this battle, and even the entire Jade Lake still belonged to the Heavenly Dao sect after all. The loss was immeasurable and terrifying. The sect master of the Heavenly Dao sect, the realm master of this domain, Emperor Qin Qing, sat at the head of the table with a gloomy face and a cold light flashing in his eyes. Weird. Too weird. Another white-bearded old cultivator said shrewdly, "That's right. Just 2 days ago His Highness Liuhe sent a message saying that the battle was going well and that they were attacking the border city. They would be able to conquer the city within 5 days and conquer the entire star world. However, just 2 days later, the battle took a turn for the worse and the army of 100,000 cultivators was annihilated. This means that a peerless overlord has appeared among them. His strength is unfathomable. We have to be careful. We nascent soul elders and even the mid-stage nascent soul grand elders to destroy them with the sect's true artifact." The black-faced elder roared. For a moment, the elders were divided into 2 groups, each of them having their own opinions. In the end, Emperor Qin Qing made the decision and set the tone. First, send 3 nascent soul heavenly lords to enter the Qi world through the Kanglan world to gather information and find out the current situation of Star World. After the investigation, send an army to conquer the stellar sky domain completely. Annihilate this world. At this moment, Zhang Tian had already entered the Qi world through the ancient teleportation array with Jinlong, Blackie, Baizhe and Ding Lingdang. The teleportation array at the edge of the Qi world connected the stellar sky domain and the Qi world, forming a medium-sized world crossing. Around this teleportation array, there was already a huge refugee camp with a radius of more than 10 miles. Within this refugee camp, simple and crude buildings that were 3 or 4 stories high were densely packed together. There were taverns, markets, gambling dens and even brothels. Hundreds of thousands of people had gathered here and it was like a town. Among them there were rich and powerful clans, peddlers, mortals, itinerant cultivators, bandits, all gathered together. It was lively and noisy with all kinds of people mixed together. When Zhang Tian and the others appeared on the teleportation array platform, immediately a fat first-level foundation establishment cultivator with a large saber in his hand stepped forward and shouted, "You're the one who's going to die. You know the rules, right? The refugees of the stellar sky domain are seeking refuge in our world. According to the rules, each person has to pay 300 kilograms of low-grade crystals. From now on you have to pay this amount on time every month. Otherwise you can return the way you came. I won't make things difficult for you." This was simply asking for too much. 300 kilograms of low-grade crystals was enough to promote a Qi refinement or even foundation establishment cultivator. Baizhe revealed a look of anger and wanted to raise his hand to kill. Zhang Tian waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Give it to him." After all, the stellar sky domain and the Qi world belonged to 2 different worlds. They were completely independent and did not owe each other anything. If you fell behind and were beaten up, others would take advantage of the situation. This was a very normal thing. Moreover, it was an agreement between the 2 parties. Otherwise, they would close the teleportation array. Cultivators were not easy to deal with. In Jiang Tian's eyes, not sending troops to attack you and taking the opportunity to occupy your territory was already a mistake by the realm lord of the Qi world. Therefore Jiang Tian was not angry. Sir, please accept it. You don't have to look for the rest. Patriarch True Dragon threw out a crystal marrow jade wall. This item was priceless. If all the conditions were met, it could promote a foundation establishment expert. Its value was far more than a few thousand kilograms of low-grade crystals. Oh, it is actually a fat sheep. The fat cultivator's eyes revealed a trace of greed and his saliva almost flowed out. He quickly reached out to take it and quietly put it in his storage bag. He handed it over to the officer based on the number of people. This time there was a lot of surplus and it was his alone. However, when he saw Moneygrubber, he still maintained his respect on the surface and said with a smile, "You can enter the refugee camp. Each person can live in a barracks. My name is Zhao Quan and I am the manager of the number 8 Stellar Sky refugee camp. If someone bullies you, just report my name. It works. However, I have to say this in advance. According to the rules, refugees can't walk around at will or leave the camp." Turned out to be Brother Zhou. Sorry for the disrespect. Jiang Tian smiled and cupped his fists. I heard that the scenery of the Qi world is magnificent and there are many strong cultivators. We want to go out and travel. Brother Zhou seems to be a person who can reach the heavens. Can't you make it convenient? This is the rule. If the higher-ups know, I will also punish you. Zhao Quan's face showed a bit of embarrassment before he patiently said, yes. There is a slave market, a fighting camp and a brothel here. You can eat, drink and play all you need. Don't talk about you, even the nobles of the Qi world like to come here to play. Don't think so much about going out. He was smiling on the surface, but in fact he was extremely contemptuous of Jiang Tian. This guy seemed to be a useless second-generation cultivator. He had money but no heart. He was a slave of a conquered country and still wanted to go out and play. Chapter 1333. As Zhao Quan spoke, he pulled Jiang Tian and the others to look around. They saw that in the huge Colosseum, heavenly star cultivators were using inferior magic tools to fight ferocious monsters. They were beaten until their bones were broken and their tendons were broken. They spat out blood and were directly swallowed just to earn a few crystals and use these crystals to obtain the right to live. As for the cultivators of the Crimson Field, even if they were mortals, they had the qualifications to sit on the dazzling viewing platform. In the surroundings, maids wearing thin gauze clothes with their naked bodies faintly discernible shuttled back and forth. They courteously fawned over the guests, living a life of wine and meat. They saw that the heavenly star maiden, who was originally the daughter of the city lord, was already starved to the point of being emaciated. She wore ragged clothes and here she was being sold as a slave. Their parents and relatives were also here for the sake of obtaining the right to live, or even just a bit of spirit grain. Otherwise they would have starved to death. Zhenlong hurriedly gave her dozens of crystals to save her from the fate of becoming a slave. They saw 2 heavenly star Qi condensation cultivators, who were originally brothers, draw their swords against each other for the sake of a little bit of petty profit. They fought to the death, and in order to survive, the ugliness of human nature was magnified thousands of times over. Ding Lingdang hurriedly stepped forward to dissuade them, offering some spirit grains and food to them. They saw injured cultivators without spirit medicine. Their bloody wounds were covered with maggots and a foul smell assailed their nostrils. They lay on the ground on the verge of death, groaning in pain. Their eyes were filled with despair and helplessness, waiting for death with the names of their wives and children. They saw many heavenly star cultivators gathered in the tavern to drink. Their eyes were filled with despair and dejection. They drank until they were dead drunk. They were drunk, hoping to numb themselves to forget the pain of losing their ancestral land. Some of them were in tears, slamming the table and roaring to return to Heavenly Star, but they were only met with merciless ridicule and ridicule. That female slave being sold is the daughter of the city lord of Gathering Wind City. She has both talent and skills. I didn't expect. Ding Lingdong's eyes were filled with tears. Her delicate body couldn't stop trembling. She clenched her fists trying to hold back her tears. This is war. Once you fail, you are even worse than a slave. Death is better than living. Jiang Tian sighed. When encountering injustice, they would sometimes lend a helping hand, but most of the time they would just watch quietly. Be it in the Earth domain or the Stellar Sky domain, Many civilizations did not realize the dangers of the starry skies. They did not understand how difficult it was to survive. They always had fantasies. This was the cruel truth. If you fell behind, you would be beaten. No one was spared. This is all because of our negligence. We did not guard the stellar sky domain well. That is why they are suffering. Ding Ling Dang murmured as she wiped away her tears and helped the severely injured cultivators along the way. At the side, Bai Zhe had an ashamed expression. He had his hands behind his back as he looked at the sky without saying a word. It's not your fault. The decline of the heavenly star domain can be traced back to the emergency stop era of interstellar wandering. At that time, the Ruins Emperor suddenly turned hostile and attacked the deity ground and the various multidimensional worlds. The heavenly star domain had to stop the advancement array in an emergency, but it had already caused the instability and collapse of many spirit-gathering arrays and gravity arrays. 1,000 years ago we were invaded by the extraterrestrial races. The Saint Sex Master destroyed the teleportation array with one slash and formed the One Sword Valley. At that time the array was completely destroyed. From then on, it was difficult for even one Golden Core Realm cultivator to appear in the next few hundred years. Compared to the Jade Pool and other worlds that have already entered the gravitational range of the Southern Gate twin stars, the foundation of the stellar sky domain is too weak. It is not even on the same level. So don't blame yourselves. The rise of a civilization is bound to encounter many twists and turns. Jiang Tian's eyes became deep and weathered. As he walked and watched, he sighed and communicated with everyone using his divine senses. The stellar sky domain has been liberated. Let's save them all. Kill the guards in the refugee camp, activate the teleportation array and let them all go back. Bai Zhe was irritated. His eyes flashed with cold murderous intent. He communicated with Jiang Tian using his divine senses. Don't be hasty. Once the teleportation array is activated, it will alert the experts of the Qi world and bring us unnecessary trouble. Jiang Tian remained calm. It will only take me 3 or 4 days to wipe out this domain. They will not suffer for too long. Little brother, don't worry. Zhao Quan didn't know what Jiang Tian and the others were discussing or why they were spending so much money. He winked and said, "Here, as long as you have money, you will live happily. In the morning you will watch the cultivators fight the demonic beasts. In the afternoon you will go to the gambling house to drink and gamble. In the evening, you will go to the brothel to find the young ladies of the stellar sky domain to play." Just like that, a fulfilling and wonderful day has passed. He had shares in the wine shops and gambling houses. Now business was booming. Even the cultivators of the Qi world liked to come and play. He made a lot of money, his daily income surpassing that of a small city's lord. Jiang Tian stopped and looked at Zhao Quan with a smile. In the next few days you will maintain order here. Don't let the people of the Qi world bully these stellar sky refugees. Give them some necessities. Don't let them kill each other. If you can do it, I will give you a set of high-grade armor. What do you mean? Zhao Quan listened to the first half and tilted his head to look at Jiang Tian. He couldn't help but curse. You are a refugee. Why do you care so much? High-grade true artifact-level armor. But in the end, Zhao Quan couldn't help showing a bit of excitement. He quickly patted his chest. Don't worry. Refugees are also people. It is my responsibility to maintain order here and maintain the basic survival of the refugees. A high-grade armor. If he wore it, he would be like a chicken turning into a phoenix. He could withstand the attack of a golden core cultivator and could even be passed down as a family heirloom. Remember your promise. Jiang Tian patted the heaven-swallowing demon gourd and a set of armor flew out. This set of armor flashed with golden light and was covered with exquisite runes. It was like a work of the gods, wonderful and natural. It really is a high-grade true weapon. Zhao Quan held the armor with both hands, his eyes shining and his saliva almost flowing out. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. Let's go talk to the realm lord of the Qi world and try to form an alliance to resist the immortal ruins. A cold glint flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes as he said, "I'm afraid they might not agree." Ding Ling Dang frowned. "If they don't agree, then kill them. Replace them with people we think are suitable." Jiang Tian smiled faintly as if this was a normal matter. "Old Black, you stay here and guard these refugees. Kill anyone who dares to bully them." Jiang Tian said with a smile. "Then you have to keep the golden cores you drop for me." The large black dog drooled as he made a request. It's best to refine them into spirit pills. I want spicy ones. Look at how fat you are. Jiang Tian had a look of disgust. Recently, the large black dog had eaten too many golden cores and spirit pills and had started to get fat. He was so fat that he almost became a ball. His belly was close to the ground and he was puffing as he walked. I'm not fat, I'm plump. 1 kilogram of spirit pills a day, it really can't be less. Otherwise you are abusing animals. Besides, I also want to lose weight, but I need to eat to have the strength to lose weight. The large black dog said aggrievedly. Hey, I'll refine it for you. Remember your task. Jiang Tian was very depressed. Then he flew out of the refugee camp with everyone. This time, Zhao Quan didn't stop Jiang Tian from leaving. Instead, he reluctantly shouted. Little brother, remember to come back. If you encounter someone checking your household registration outside, it will be very dangerous if you don't have proof of origin. When you come back, Brother Zhou will invite you to drink and watch a play. Good things. Tisgate Dragon Scale Gold Rune, Imperial Thunder Rune, Fire Rune. This thing can buy a giant city. Once Jiang Tian disappeared from sight, Zhao Quan took out the high-grade true artifact level armor and smiled happily as he looked at it. Suddenly he turned to the collar. A line of small gold embroidered words came into view. The Tian Dao Sex Refining Pavilion was made by His Highness Qin Liuhe. Zhao Quan was so scared that he sat on the ground, his body trembling like a sieve. His eyes were straight as he murmured in a daze. I heard that His Highness Qin Liuhe has fallen. This is their spoils of war. Who are these people? He felt that things weren't good. He was so scared that he trembled like a sieve. He got up and hurriedly took out a sound transmission artifact. No. Something big is going to happen. I have to report to my superiors. This is a problem. The Heavenly Star rebels who killed Qin Liuhe have invaded. Fatty Zhou, who do you want to report to? Who invaded? At this time, the large black dog was holding a spicy strip in his mouth and chewing on a spirit pill. He suddenly appeared out of thin air, shaking his fat buttocks as he asked with a smile. You stop right there. Surrender without a fight. Otherwise I will kill you. Zhao Quan pulled out his long blade and shouted loudly. Bang! The big black dog stood up and sent Zhao Quan flying 100 meters away with one paw. He smiled. He smiled and said, What did you just say? Say it again. Believe it or not, I will roast you until you are medium cooked and eat you. Brother Black, don't be impulsive. Calm down. You must calm down. Zhao Quan covered his chest and vomited blood. He no longer dared to be presumptuous and smiled. What do you want to eat me for? I am too fat and greasy. I am old and my meat is too coarse. I will definitely have diarrhea if I eat it. I will take you to eat Chinese alligator meat. It is tender, smooth and refreshing. There is also a spicy taste. Brother, I will treat you and you can eat as much as you want. Chinese alligator meat? It is also spicy? Turns out that you are also a foodie. You have good taste. I believe we will become good friends. The large black dog was grinning from ear to ear, saliva dripping from his mouth. Chapter 1334. The Qi world gave Jiang Tian the feeling that it was similar to the scorching desert in West Earth. The dark brown and dark red mountains of the Red Cliff were completely barren. Not a single blade of grass grew on them. Large areas of the area were completely barren and deathly still. However, there were huge whale skeletons on these barren lands or buried in the ground. There were also huge shellfish, hawksbill turtles and large coral reefs. However, the temperature here was extremely low. It was even below zero all year round. There was no one in the wilderness and the cold wind whistled like knives. Only some cities with temperature increasing arrays would have people gathered. Moreover, mortals had to wear temperature increasing artifacts all year round to live. However, the strange thing was that although it was cold here, there was no ice or snow. It was a kind of extreme dry and cold. The sunlight here was even thinner and the sun seemed very small. On the other hand, Mars seemed very big and could be seen clearly. This place was even farther away from the sun than Earth was from the stellar sky domain. No wonder it's called Qi. It really lives up to its name. Jiang Tian exclaimed. Qi also belongs to the Dragon Gate world. In the end, it belongs to the East Sea Class 2-dimensional world. Patriarch True Dragon explained. It is said that tens of thousands of years ago, before the ancient Earth fell apart, Hai Lan, Bei Ming, Penglai, Dragon Gate, and all other dimensional worlds were located on a vast ocean. This Qi world was originally a vast ocean and a few islands. It was full of spirit Qi and the climate was suitable. It was very suitable for living creatures to live and cultivate. However, after receiving the news that the ruins of immortality had fallen, the Qi stellar sky and the other class 4-dimensional worlds all braked urgently, causing a great disaster. Some of the propulsion arrays exploded, some of the earth cracked and lava flowed, some of the spatial barriers shook, forming spatial cracks and fragments, and even erupting spatial storms. Almost none of the living creatures on them died. A look of regret appeared on his face as he sighed with emotion. It is said that the situation in Qi is very special. The artificial sun and the underground propulsion arrays were in chaos together. Originally, the artificial sun was only activated after leaving Earth. However, in this world it was immediately activated, and the sun's light absorbed was increased by 100 times. Moreover, the underground propulsion formations all burst into flames. Thus, within a month, all the seawater was evaporated. The mortals were cooked by the rolling steam, their bones and flesh separated, or they were instantly roasted into dried corpses by the scorching sun. The island has become a mountain and the underwater world has become a basin. The ecosystem has been severely damaged. Not even a drop of water can be seen here. Everyone fell silent. This was a great disaster and tragedy. In ancient times, in order to preserve their roots and find a place to rest, the living beings of ancient Earth paid a heavy price. It was an epic and tragic thing. However, after too many years, the descendants of Qi ancestor had already forgotten the unyielding struggle of their ancestors for freedom and their homeland. They had even forgotten that Earth was their ancestral planet and homeland. How strong is the Imperial Thunder sect in this place? I have an old friend who has been here for several years. I don't know how he is doing, so I want to go and take a look. Jiang Tian asked. The Imperial Thunder sect is one of the top 10 sects here. But as far as I know, there is only one golden core cultivator in this sect, and that is the sect leader Lei Bao. Bai Zhe chuckled and said, the Imperial Thunder sect is very old and has a long history. In ancient times, it was one of the top sects in this world. Even this world belongs to the Imperial Thunder sect. But after the era of breaks, there were no longer any clouds and water vapor here. Even if they had thunder, they couldn't use it. Their power was greatly reduced. The Imperial Thunder sect was reduced to a second-rate sect. Later on, they seem to have been wiped out by the Crimson Stone sect. Their overlords fell like rain and their vitality was greatly damaged. Now they are only ranked 10th. Zhang Qianlei is in trouble now. Jiang Tian didn't feel anything. He even wanted to laugh. At first, Zhang Qianlei wanted to improve himself and surpass him. But now he might not be able to improve even an inch in the next few years. If he followed him all the time, he might have reached the false core level by cultivating in the Thunderlock world. The Imperial Thunder sect was only 1,000 miles away from the 8th teleportation shelter. Jiang Tian and the others were very fast. They could arrive in a few hours. However, to Jiang Tian's surprise, the Imperial Thunder sect was located on an oasis. It was just that this oasis was man-made with a huge water-drawing formation. It was not natural. The grass was luxuriant and the lake grass swayed. There were a few clear lakes connected by rivers. The spirit Qi here was inferior to that of Tianqing school before the spirit Qi recovered. With one look, Jiang Tian immediately understood. The Imperial Thunder sect's thunder technique might be higher than that of Earth's Dragon Tiger Mountain, but it was definitely not the top thunder technique. It could not create thunder out of thin air. Therefore, it gathered wind and water spirit Qi to facilitate the disciples' use and cultivation of thunder techniques. The dojo was located on a 1,000-feet-high mountain. The most eye-catching thing was a red stone hall. Within the range of the dojo there were 2 or 3-story stone rooms and wooden houses. They were arranged in picturesque disorder, forming a walled city. There were about a few thousand disciples. Most of them were at the Qi refinement level. The mere dozens of foundation establishment cultivators seemed a little shabby. Jiang Tian and the others landed at the mountain gate. They walked up and cupped their fists at the leader of the outer sect disciples guarding the gate. Fellow Daoist, is Zhang Qianlei here? We are fellow Daoist Qianlei's old friends. Fellow Daoist of Elder Qianlei, where are you from? A hint of vigilance flashed in the eyes of the leader of the gatekeepers as he arrogantly asked. He said arrogantly, Now there are many refugees from the Stellar Sky domain. Many people come here to take advantage of us or recommend themselves to join the Imperial Thunder Sect. They are all lowly ants. How dare they have such dreams? Don't tell me you are one of them? Do you want to die? Bai Zai's eyes turned cold. He was so angry that he wanted to kill him. Forget it. Jiang Tian was not angry. He took out a crystal marrow and handed it over. He smiled faintly and said, "Fellow Daoist, please inform them that Jiang Tian is here to visit." Crystal marrow. The disciple's eyes widened. Greed flashed in his eyes. He rolled up his sleeves and took it without a trace. However, he frowned, looked up and said in a businesslike manner, "Elder Qianlei is in seclusion. He won't come out for a while. There is a Yuelai Inn at the foot of the mountain. You can stay there first. When he comes out, I will ask him to find you." "Where is he in seclusion? How long is he going to be in seclusion?" Jiang Tian frowned. He was displeased. This brat was obviously using a chicken feather as a token of authority. The key was that he took the crystal marrow and did nothing. It was really disgusting. Of course he is in seclusion in the sect. As for how long, I don't know. The leader said impatiently, "Hurry up and leave. Don't make a fuss at the mountain gate. We have an important guest today. If you offend him, I will skin you alive." Although he was only at the Qi refinement realm, his brother-in-law was an inner sect elder. He was a perfected foundation establishment realm expert and was not far from the fake elixir realm. Just now, Jiang Tian's divine senses had only scanned the sect roughly. He did not invade the hall, stone rooms, or wooden houses. Of course, this was not because Jiang Tian could not do it. With the terrifying strength of his soul-devouring divine senses, he could sweep through any soundproofing, blocking divine senses and concealing restrictions as if they were nothing. However, using divine senses to invade other people's sects was a taboo in the cultivation world. Jiang Tian did not have to do so easily. However, at this time, Jiang Tian had a bad feeling in his heart, but he couldn't care less. He frowned and scanned with his divine senses. He saw, in a heavily sealed stone cave with a strict array, Zhang Qianlei's dantian limbs and shoulder blades were all pierced by blood-stained chains. He was hanging on a giant stone pillar with messy hair and stubble. Next to him stood 4 cultivators, 3 fake elixir realm cultivators and 1 golden core cultivator. The golden core cultivator, who was dressed luxuriously and had a sinister temperament, put his hands behind his back and laughed coldly. "Zhang Qianlei, tell me everything you know about Kong Teichu's cultivation arts and strength. This is what the envoy of the Azure, the Arch of the Jade Pool, wants. As long as you tell me, I will be the master of this place in the future. I will suppress the Crimson Stone Sect Master and the Crimson Emperor. Of course, I won't mistreat you. Outer Sect Elders are not worth mentioning. I'll at least give you the title of Sect Master. Lei Bao, you have no hope of defeating Kong Teichu. The Jade Pool has no hope either. It's useless for me to tell you." Zhang Qianlei spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva and smiled. "Taichu and I are as close as brothers and we love each other. If he knows that you're torturing me like this, he will definitely cut you into pieces and avenge me when he comes to the Crimson Field one day. You're still talking nonsense at this time. You're courting death." Lei Bao sneered and made a hand seal, pointing at the stone pillar. Immediately, the many thunderbolt stones inlaid on the stone pillar suddenly released thousands of lightning bolts, forming a terrifying sea of lightning that wrapped around Zhang Qianlei like a cocoon. Zhang Qianlei had a thunder spirit root and constitution to begin with, so he cultivated a thunder control art. He could control thunder and lightning like an extension of his arm. Any ordinary thunder and lightning couldn't hurt him at all. But this thunderbolt stone didn't contain ordinary thunder and lightning, but the crystallization of the universe thunder in the void. It was extremely rare and powerful. The true thunder of heaven and earth was dazzling, with a destructive and immortal aura. A thumb-sized bolt could penetrate an aircraft carrier and blow up a mountain. Its power was more than 10 times or 100 times that of ordinary thunder and lightning. Suddenly, Zhang Qianlei's body trembled violently. His skin was torn and his bones were broken. His whole body was charred black and a large piece of his muscles even collapsed and fell off. "Ah, good hit. Good hit. Beat him until he cried out. It can help me refine my dantian and body." "But Lei Bao, are you a woman or did you not eat in the morning? You want to rely on the power of the thunderbolt stone?" You really make me despise you. If you have the guts, use your real ability and give me a quick death. Kill me. Zhang Qianlei was in so much pain that his teeth were almost broken, but he spat out a mouthful of blood and charred black saliva. He was still laughing and cursing without changing his rough and resolute character. Chapter 1335. Seeing this, Lei Bao was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, "Okay, Zhang Qianlei, you're tough, aren't you? I have more ruthless things waiting for you. Let's see how long you can hold on. What's going on? I told you to go away and stop sneaking around the mountain gate. Are you deaf?" At the entrance of the mountain, the head of the guards roared fiercely. "What's going on? Why don't you go away? Do you want to die? Didn't you hear? You're not allowed to wander around here. Are you up to no good? Believe it or not, I'll kill you." At the same time, 3 Qi refinement cultivators flew to Jiang Tian and pushed him. They even pulled out their swords and waved them around, showing off their strength. "Get lost." Jiang Tian withdrew his divine sense. His eyes flashed with a chilling murderous intent. He raised his hand and waved it suddenly. "How dare you hit me?" The head guard was thrown 100 meters away and fell to the ground like a dead dog. Half of his teeth fell out and he was furious. Bang! The 3 guards in front of Jiang Tian were only Qi refinement cultivators. How could they withstand Jiang Tian's attack? They were immediately turned into blood mist under Jiang Tian's sleeve and disappeared in the air. The power of a sleeve can kill 3 Qi refinement cultivators. It's terrifying. The head guard looked up and saw his companions turned into blood stains. He couldn't help but tremble in fear and gasp. An expert. He must be at Foundation establishment or even the late stage. Should we report to the elders or... Don't move. Don't make a sound. We'll die if we move. The other cultivators were also scared and stepped back. Their eyes were full of fear, like little white rabbits meeting a fierce wolf. "Baize, you guys wait outside. There are no experts here. I can handle it alone," Jiang Tian said through his divine sense. His figure flashed and he disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. Even their divine sense couldn't detect him. The head guard's face was livid and pale. He wanted to chase but didn't dare to. The other party was simply too powerful. There was no way they could stop him at all. Moreover, he didn't know that Zhang Qianlei had been secretly captured. He only thought that Zhang Qianlei was still an outer sect elder with a high position and power that he couldn't afford to offend. Previously, he had deliberately made things difficult for Zhang Qianlei's friends, yelling about killing them. If word got out, it wouldn't make sense and Zhang Qianlei would even hold him accountable. Just as he was hesitating and sighing, a voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, a dignified shout came from behind. "Why are you standing here stupidly instead of guarding the door?" When he turned around, he saw his brother-in-law standing on a flying sword and landing at the mountain gate. The head guard immediately went up to him and complained. "Brother-in-law, you came at the right time. Just now there was a cultivator who didn't know the rules. He wanted to find someone and barged into the mountain gate. I stopped him and he even killed 3 guards." At this moment, the head of the guards was quite pleased with himself. "Even if I can't deal with you, do you think my brother-in-law can't?" Brother-in-law is at the Great Circle of Foundation Establishment and a technique imparting elder. He's highly regarded by the sect master. Even Zhang Qianlei doesn't dare to offend him, let alone you? Elder Xin Jiuling frowned and asked, "Who is he looking for? He's so arrogant and domineering. Is he a guest of the sect master?" "No, he's looking for Zhang Qianlei." The moment the head guard said that, "He's really looking for him," Xin Jiuling's expression turned cold and his pupils constricted as though he was facing a great enemy. Zhang Qianlei was a cultivator from Earth who had been secretly captured and interrogated. Could this be Zhang Qianlei's reinforcements? Xin Jiuling's expression became very serious and solemn. Furthermore, the other party killed him immediately after a disagreement. It was clear that he already knew about Zhang Qianlei's situation and came with ill intentions. How can I remember wrongly? It's clear as day. The head guard fanned the flames. "Brother-in-law, you have to stand up for me. So what if he's Zhang Qianlei's friend? How dare he slap me? Is he slapping me? He's slapping you in the face. Everyone knows that I'm on your side." "Shut up. Gather all the cultivators above the Foundation establishment realm in the sect and come with me to look for him." Xin Jiuling and his brother-in-law were not thinking about the same thing at all. so they didn't have the patience to listen. He had just scanned the entire sect with his divine sense, but he didn't find Zhang Tian at all. He thought that he had used a powerful concealment technique. But he didn't know. After Zhang Tian entered the Imperial Thunder sect, he immediately used an invisibility divine sense and rushed toward the secret stone chamber where Zhang Qianlei was imprisoned. There were a dozen arrays around the stone chamber. Soundproofing and invisibility were the most basic ones. There was also the Thunder Fire Array, the 5 Elements Killing Array and the 1,000 Blades Divine Array. There was even a Divine Breaking Array that targeted Divine Sense. Once one's Divine Sense probed inside, it would be counterattacked and killed. Those arrays were connected and even a golden core perfected Immortal would find it difficult to pass through them safely. But for Zhang Tian, those arrays were too low level and could be broken with a slash. However, Zhang Tian did not use brute force to break through them. Instead, he quickly found the holes in the many magic arrays. In just 3 flicks of his fingers, he passed through the many layers of magic arrays and arrived before the stone room. Then he used a wall-passing talisman to enter the stone room. Who are you? Who let you in? How did you get in? Seeing that Zhang Tian had suddenly appeared, Lei Bao and the others were shocked and shouted loudly. Being able to pass through the arrays and enter the stone chamber without them noticing was definitely not an ordinary person. Get out of here. Don't worry about me. Zhang Qianlei, who was on the verge of collapse, was overjoyed the moment he saw Zhang Tian. However, in the next moment he struggled with all his might and shouted loudly. He had never thought that Zhang Tian would have reached the golden core level in just a few years. And it wasn't a normal golden core, but a divine-grade golden core that could crush normal nascent soul cultivators. He thought that Zhang Tian was still at the chi refinement level. Even if Zhang Tian was a genius, he wouldn't be a match for a golden core cultivator and 3 fake core cultivators. So he's here to save you? Lei Bao and the 3 fake core cultivators were frightened at first, but they quickly calmed down after glancing at Zhang Tian's Dan Tian. Bastard! Who let you in? How dare you break into the forbidden area? One of the elders, Zhao Juren, scanned with his immortal will and found that Zhang Tian was only at the early stage of the foundation establishment level. He immediately looked down on Zhang Tian and scolded him. He didn't know that Zhang Tian had been using the divine power of Taotai returns and the thick earth god-suppressing chains to compress and condense the golden core. Before Zhang Tian used his full strength, his chi wouldn't leak out at all, and he didn't have any energy to speak of. He looked just like an ordinary person. Only a nascent soul cultivator with sharp eyes would be able to see through this. Being able to detect Zhang Tian's energy was already the result of his powerful immortal will and good eyesight. Zhao Juren was the law enforcement elder of the Imperial Thunder sect. He was usually arrogant and enjoyed abusing his disciples. Didn't you hear me? Kneel down and beg for mercy. When he saw Zhang Tian was a soft persimmon, not only did he curse with harsh words, he even attacked Zhang Tian. He withdrew a long saber that swept out like a gale, and it was extremely decisive and straightforward. Crack! The saber slashed out. Suddenly, the purple thunderbolt was like a giant python, magnificent and dazzling. It swept towards Zhang Tian like a sky full of divine light. Qianlei, you don't know my current strength. You must regret coming to the Qi world and wasting your time. Zhang Tian was calm and even chuckled at Zhang Qianlei. He didn't even bat an eyelid and just raised his hand. Taotai returns. This law, when practiced to the extreme, could even devour the sea of stars. Although Zhang Tian had only mastered the law of devouring, it was still a piece of cake for him to deal with the thunderbolt from a cultivator. Doesn't he know that the thunder punishment saber can kill a golden core cultivator? He's dead. However, to the 4 people from the Imperial Thunder sect, that was not the case at all. They felt that Zhang Tian was simply courting death. The thunder punishment saber was a quasi-genuine weapon. It was given to Zhao Juren by the ambassadors of the Jade Lake in order to win them over. With this saber in hand, Zhao Juren's strength would increase tenfold. It could even split an immortal golden core cultivator and turn him into ashes. The thunderbolt was extremely fierce and domineering, as if it could break the void and split the earth. Facing such a terrifying saber, even the sect master Lei Bao wouldn't dare to resist it if he didn't have a genuine weapon. He would have to retreat. But Zhang Tian actually didn't use any sort of lightning protection magic tool. He just used his hand to meet it head-on. This was simply too ridiculous. Did he think that the purple lightning from a true artifact was a joke? just as Lei Bao and the other two were sneering. Those bearing fangs and brandishing claws, carrying a destructive aura, were like obedient kittens, constantly shrinking and entering Jiang Tian's palm. The vast thunderbolts were compressed into a ball the size of a basketball. Its light was even brighter like the sun. How is this possible? Zhao Juren was so scared that he almost fainted. His body trembled and his face was full of astonishment. Senior, please spare my life. Seeing Jiang Tian's attack, Lei Bao and the other two were so scared that they knelt on the ground with pale faces. At this moment, the divine disc in Jiang Tian's dantian was running and his energy was rising. They could already feel the immortal golden core cultivator. Jiang Tian was stronger than them and had such a powerful divine art. They didn't even dare to think about resisting Jiang Tian. They could only wag their tails and beg for mercy. He has formed a golden core? We're finished. We're suppressed by you again. Even Zhang Qianlei was stunned. His eyes were glazed over and he couldn't believe it. When he parted with Jiang Tian was still at the foundation establishment level. In the past few years, Zhang Qianlei had also served as an outer sect elder at the beginning. He had also obtained a lot of cultivation resources that were unimaginable on Earth. However, even so he had only advanced by 2 small levels, barely reaching the middle stage of foundation establishment. This kind of advancement in the Qi world could already be said to be godly speed, advancing 1,000 miles in a day. Who knew how many people were envious? Zhang Qianlei had never thought that Jiang Tian could improve so quickly on Earth, where spirit qi was scarce and cultivation resources were scarce. How dare you bully my brother? Go to hell. Jiang Tian's eyes became cold and he didn't show any mercy. He waved his hand. The compressed thunderball turned into a beam of light and hit Lei Bao and the others. Zhao Juren and the other 2 elders were smashed into ashes with a muffled sound. Not even a trace of them was left. Chapter 1336. Only Lei Bao was still alive, but his situation was very miserable. After all, he was a gold core realm cultivator with vigorous vitality. However, his gold core was also pierced and cracked. His cultivation was almost gone. His hair was standing on end and his flesh was torn open. Black smoke billowed. Senior, please spare my life. Don't kill me. Lei Bao rolled on the ground in pain and screamed. He was half threatening and half pleading. I didn't want to make things difficult for Brother Qianlei. I was just following orders. The cultivators of Jade Lake forced me to do this. Moreover, the envoys of Jade Lake will come later. If you kill me, they won't spare you. As long as you spare my life, I will help mediate. Zhang Qianlei still has a chance to live. You reckless fool, how dare you threaten me? Fine, I won't kill you. I'll let you see how the cultivators of Jade Lake scream under my feet. Jiang Tian said sarcastically. Jiang Tian was too lazy to kill such an ant. For a cultivator, having his cultivation destroyed was actually more terrible than death. Moreover, Jiang Tian wanted to let him taste the taste of regret and despair before killing him. Break. Jiang Tian waved his hand and released several wind blades, shattering the divine chains on Zhang Qianlei's body. Zhang Qianlei fell to the ground, but he was even more shocked. He could not help but smile bitterly and sigh. Jiang Tian, your strength seems to have improved a lot. What a terrifying strength. The corners of Lei Bao's eyes twitched and his heart trembled. He could not believe it. This divine chain was made of 100 refined divine metal that had been tempered by earth fire for 10 cycles. Even a cultivator at the late stage of Gold Core realm could not break it. However, Jiang Tian was able to cut through it as if he was drawing a knife to cut through water. His strength had already reached an unimaginable level. Stop talking nonsense. Repair your dantian first. Jiang Tian took out a few heaven-mending pills. This pill can repair the dantian? How is that possible? Zhang Qianlei only felt that this medicinal pill's fragrance assailed his nostrils and refreshed his mind. It was very extraordinary, but he still opened his eyes wide and stared blankly for a moment before swallowing it. Not only did he feel that it was impossible, but Lei Bao also felt that it was impossible. Putting aside the fact that Zhang Qianlei's dantian was destroyed by the Thunderstrike stone, the residual mana fluctuations were extremely tough and difficult to remove. Even if it was a normal dantian, there was no precedent of it being repaired. At least in the Qi world it had never happened before. But then a strange scene happened. Zhang Qianlei's damaged dantian healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 15 minutes, Zhang Qianlei's dantian was completely repaired. Although his true essence was overflowing and his cultivation level was only at the early stage of foundation establishment, it was still a miracle that he could recover to this extent. How is this possible? How could this pill be so heaven-defying? Where did it come from? Lei Bao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. I made it myself. Jiang Tian sat down on the stone stool and withdrew a jug of thunderflame wine before taking a light sip, and he spoke in a carefree manner. He had taken a liking to this wine after tasting it once at the Mandarin Duck Inn. Not only was the taste explosive, but it could also nourish his lightning-slaughtered divine physique. You made it yourself? Who the hell are you? When did such a heaven-defying person appear in the Qi world? Lei Bao murmured in a daze. If it was said that Jiang Tian's ability to control the lightning with a raise of his hand had made him fearful, then at this moment he was already deeply impressed. This technique was too heaven-defying. He was like a god. Even the Crimson King of the Qi world didn't have such a technique. Although the cultivation world was mainly about fighting, there were also many branches of knowledge such as alchemy, artifact forging, array building, talisman making and so on. However, to reach a higher level in each of these fields was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It required countless efforts and resources and there were many difficulties. But now Jiang Tian had silently broken the array and revealed his level of array formation. The divine powers of lightning control and the secret art of alchemy had all reached a level that ordinary people couldn't reach, not to mention that Jiang Tian was proficient in all three. He's Kong Teichu. What do you think? Are you scared? Zhang Qianlei was delighted to the extreme. He was immensely proud of himself. He kicked him a few times and said calmly, "What? He's Kong Teichu, the ruler of the stellar sky. Could it be that he has already snatched the stellar sky domain?" Lei Bao couldn't believe it. He had heard of Jiang Tian's fame long ago. However, he didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so young. What nonsense are you talking about? That place was originally mine. Jiang Tian waved his hand and swatted him away like a fly. He stuck to the wall like a fly and slid down after a long time. At this moment, Lei Bao's mentality had undergone an earth-shattering change. Maybe he should follow this young man in front of him. Then his dantian would be repaired and he might even receive great benefits and be upgraded. Lei Bao hurriedly rushed to Jiang Tian and hugged Jiang Tian's calf. "Senior, the reason why I joined the Jade Pool was because I was forced by the Jade Pool's envoy and the Crimson King. I didn't want to. I always remember that the earth is my mother. Please let me follow you and attack the Crimson King together." The Crimson King is just a golden core realm cultivator. He can't even withstand a single blow. Is he worthy of me attacking him? Jiang Tian was full of mockery. He smiled coldly and couldn't be bothered with him. Instead he asked about Zhang Qianlei's experience these years. After hearing Zhang Qianlei's story, Jiang Tian finally understood. Back then when he went to the Sword Tomb Island, Zhang Qianlei wandered around and met the former Imperial Thunder Sect master Tang Yuan, who was traveling in the lower domain. Zhang Qianlei's personality was cold and competitive. He immediately thought that he had a chance to surpass Jiang Tian. He left without saying goodbye and was brought to this world by Tang Yuan. In fact, Tang Yuan treated him well. Maybe he saw Zhang Qianlei's thunder element spirit root, or maybe he wanted to pass down some Dao foundation for the earth. He valued Zhang Qianlei and accepted him as his personal disciple and gave him many cultivation resources. In addition, Zhang Qianlei was also an elder in charge of external affairs. He was responsible for building good relations with the major sections. It could be said that Tang Yuan completely nurtured him as his successor. Although Lei Bao and the other elders were very jealous of Zhang Qianlei, there was nothing they could do. Because Zhang Qianlei's constitution was extraordinary and his talent was unparalleled, his cultivation progressed at lightning speed. In just a few years he stepped into the middle stage of foundation establishment. Within 10 years he had the chance to break through to the Golden Core realm. He overtook them and firmly suppressed them. Things took a turn for the better half a year ago. Jade Lake occupied Navy Billow World and came to this world. They wanted to use the Imperial Thunder Sect's teleportation formation to rush to Earth. This was because during the ancient era the teleportation formation was damaged. The teleportation array here had also been severely damaged. Many teleportation arrays leading to Earth had collapsed, leaving only the teleportation array of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Although the Crimson Stone sect overtook them and dominated this world for thousands of years, unfortunately, they did not have a teleportation formation leading to Earth. The old Imperial Thunder sect master Tang Yuan often traveled in the lower domain quietly. He had deep feelings for Earth. Without another word, he destroyed the teleportation formation with a swing of his sword and sternly refused the Jade Lake envoy's request. He looked death in the face and harshly cursed them for their wild ambitions. In anger, the Jade Lake cultivators killed Tang Yuan with a swing of their sword. They supported Lei Bao and imprisoned Zhang Qianlei. A few days ago, the Jade Lake cultivators came again and asked Lei Bao to interrogate Zhang Qianlei about Jiang Tian. They tortured him in every way possible until today when Jiang Tian arrived. After hearing this, a fierce killing intent flashed through Jiang Tian's eyes. He frowned and said, "Where are the Jade Lake cultivators?" "In the Crimson Stone sect," Lei Bao hurriedly said with a fawning expression. "In the Crimson Stone sect, there is a cave abode called Warm Jade Blessed Land. It is overflowing with spirit energy and is extremely luxurious. The Jade Lake envoys all live there. There are more than 10 of them. The strongest is a perfected golden core great true immortal. There are also 3 golden cores and several foundation establishment deacons." Although the Jade Lake envoy said that as long as the Crimson Stone sect master, who is also the Crimson Emperor of the Crimson Wild World, Huang Qianzhong, gives up this world, he will have the chance to ascend to the Jade Lake world and take up an important position. However, Huang Qianzhong is still hesitating. He does not have 100% trust in the Jade Lake cultivators. After all, the Blue Wave World and Star World were trampled on like ants by the Jade Lake World. They were almost completely eradicated. Perhaps Huang Qianzhong is also wary. Lei Bao spilled out a lot of information like beans from a bamboo tube. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with mockery. He laughed coldly and interrupted. "So, you are trying your best to curry favor down there. Once the Crimson Emperor is eliminated, you who has the Jade Lake's approval can replace him. It's all my fault. I was too short-sighted." Lei Bao, who had a strong desire to live, was immediately terrified when he heard this. His originally bent waist was almost bent to the ground. He muttered with a face full of shame. "I was terrified by the Jade Lake's cultivators. They were overbearing and aggressive, and they easily annihilated sects and killed people. They were extremely ferocious and terrifying. For the sake of protecting the sect, I had no choice but to endure humiliation and make such a decision." He took out a token from his storage ring and offered it to her in an ingratiating manner. Then he started to flatter her. "Actually, this junior has been waiting for the arrival of the absolute primordium dominator. The dominator's talent is outstanding, and his strength is as high as the sky. His divine abilities are unfathomable and he is as deep as the sea. He is also a man of great talent and vision. Once you come, you will be the great savior of the Crimson Wild World. You will definitely be able to save the world and save the people from the fire and water. In the future you will be the grand sect master of our sect. We will all listen to your orders. I can even call you Godfather." At this moment, Lei Meng's soul in Jiang Tian's sea of consciousness was dumbfounded when he heard this. He muttered in a low voice. "When it comes to flattery, humans are still better. They are too shameless. At any rate, he is the sect master of a large sect. How can he be so shameless? Shameless. Jiang Tian could not be bothered to listen anymore. He said indifferently, "All right, stop talking nonsense. I will go directly to the Crimson Stone sect's Warm Jade Blessed Land." As he spoke, he stood up. "Senior Absolute Primordium, please wait for a moment. This disciple will come out immediately. Brother Lei, please help Senior Absolute Primordium hold this token for now." Lei Bao stuffed the token into Zhang Qianlei's hands. Then he hurriedly took out a set of clothes from his storage ring and changed into them. He also took out some medicinal pills to repair his external injuries. Lei Bao was a sect master after all. He cared about his reputation and image. Now that his skin and flesh were torn and his clothes were tattered, if this ugly state was seen by his disciples, the fact that he had lost all his cultivation would be exposed. Not only would he lose face, he would also attract a lot of trouble. Jiang Tian had his hands behind his back and walked out of the stone room as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He saw Xin Jiling lead a group of cultivators and descend from the sky with a whoosh. They occupied positions in all directions and surrounded Jiang Tian. The head guard of the mountain gate held a flying sword in his hand and jumped out. He waved it a few times to show off his strength. He was very pleased with himself and shouted aggressively, "Be obedient. My brother-in-law, Elder Xinjiuling, is here. Immediately hand over your Dharma artifacts and weapons. Surrender and wait for the sect master's judgment." Chapter 1337. How dare you? Zhang Qianlei stepped out of the stone room, pulled out the sect master's token and shouted angrily. "This is our supreme sect master. Even Lei Bao has to kowtow to him. How dare you stop him? You're courting death. Get out of my way." "Elder Qianlei, what did you say?" "Supreme sect master." The head guard was stunned and his face turned pale. He subconsciously jumped back dozens of meters. The other guards also retreated, surprised and doubtful. As a low-level outer disciple, he didn't know that Zhang Qianlei was being controlled. He thought he had offended the supreme elder just now. "Zhang Qianlei, others don't know, but do you think I don't know? You're Kong Teichu's henchman. You're already a prisoner." At this time, Xinjiuling, whose face was as gloomy as water, stepped forward and said sarcastically, "You broke out of the prison, escaped secretly, stole the sect master's token and pretended to be the supreme sect master. How dare you? According to the sect rules, you're guilty of a crime punishable by death." He looked down at Jiang Tian and Jiang Chen as if he was looking at ants and said arrogantly, "However, I'll give you a chance because we've worked together for a few years. As long as you and this villain surrender, I can plead for you in front of the sect master. I told you that this kid looks sneaky and must be up to no good. It turns out that he's a villain." The head guard was shocked again. Fortunately, he didn't let Jiang Tian go in just now. Otherwise, the sect master wouldn't let him go. "Humph, we don't have a supreme sect master position in our sect. You've exposed yourself this time." He once again led the guards to surround Jiang Tian, brandishing his long sword. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness as he roared mockingly. Jiang Tian chuckled and remained calm. He really didn't want to deal with such a small character. Zhang Qianlei stepped forward and roared, "Get out of here. If you talk nonsense again, I'll break your legs. Do you think I, an outer sanctum elder, am useless?" Just now, the sect leader Zhao Juren and the other elders seemed to be inside. But now they are all silent. Could it be that they have met with an accident and were killed by this evil man? A white-bearded, white-haired grand elder swept the area with his divine sense and suddenly exclaimed, "Is this true?" Xinjiuling was so scared that he almost jumped up. His eyes stared at Jiang Tian as he angrily asked, "Where are sect leader and elder Zhao Juren? Did you kill him?" With his hands behind his back, Jiang Tian remained motionless, as steady as Mount Tai. "I did kill Zhao Juren and the other two elders, but I am still your supreme patriarch. How dare you? Kill him. Don't let them go." Swish, swish. In an instant, led by Xinjiuling, many elders and hall masters unsheathed their treasured swords and sabers. In an instant, cold sword radiance flashed and a sharp murderous aura swept across the area. Many magic treasures and spiritual treasures emitted thousands of rays of light. Violent true core strength and dharma power surged up to the sky like stormy waves, filling up the area. "Little bastard, you dared to kill Elder Zhao Juren and still dare to talk nonsense and pretend to be the supreme patriarch. I think you won't cry until you see the coffin." The head of the guards hid behind the crowd and roared loudly. Deep in his eyes, there was a hint of gloating. Xinjiuling and the other grand elders knew that this was a serious matter. They were shocked and angry because of Zhao Juren's death. But the head of the guards was just a small figure. He didn't care so much. He only knew that Jiang Tian had beaten him and made him feel humiliated. He had to take revenge. But now this kid had killed so many important people. He would definitely be cut into pieces. He had to take revenge. At this moment, lightning appeared in the void and wrapped around a figure. It swept over like a hurricane. Ouch! Suddenly, a scream was heard. The guard flew 100 meters away and heavily hit the mountain wall. The sword in his hand was broken into countless pieces. Bloody foam seeped out of his mouth as countless electric sparks leaped around his body like little silver snakes. His entire body was charred black and many of his bones and tendons were broken. There was a large hole in his chest that was faintly in the shape of a fist. Ah! Many elders, hall masters and guards stepped back subconsciously. They looked at Lei Bao in shock. Lei Bao's face was covered in dust and his hair was blown up. Sect Master, why did you beat him? Supreme Patriarch. Godfather, it's all my fault. I didn't teach them well and raised a group of ignorant idiots. They offended you. Please punish them. Lei Bao's face was pale with fear. He ran to Jiang Tian like a dog that saw its master. Then he trembled like a cold signal bird and knelt in front of Jiang Tian, begging for mercy. Godfather? Supreme Patriarch. Looking at the high and mighty Lei Bao kneeling at Jiang Tian's feet, Xinjiu Ling and the others were stunned. They couldn't believe it. This young man had black hair and black eyes. He was wearing a white robe. Other than being extremely handsome, there was nothing special about him. His cultivation was also very low. He didn't have any aura or majesty that looked down on the world. They couldn't figure out how he could suppress Lei Bao, who was a golden core cultivator, to kneel and submit. He even became the Supreme Patriarch and Lei Bao's godfather. Godfather? Our sect master is already a few hundred years old. Why would he recognize such a young man as his godfather? When did he become the Supreme Patriarch? The guard was scared out of his wits. Cold sweat flowed down his body like a small stream. His body trembled and his hands and feet spasmed. He even threatened to kill the Supreme Patriarch. He was afraid that no one could protect him. Even if his brother-in-law said something, it would be useless. Why are you still standing there when you see the Supreme Patriarch and my godfather? Why aren't you kneeling? Lei Bao glared at Xinjiu Ling and the others. What kind of bullshit question is that? Beating one of his guards is a light punishment. If it weren't for my damaged dantian and weakened cultivation, I would have killed all of you. You even dared to offend Kong Teichu, who killed the nascent soul cultivator ancestral patriarch Binding Sunday. Are you courting death? But if you want to die, don't drag me down with you. We pay our respects to the Supreme Patriarch. We pay our respects to our godfather, sect master. Xinjiu Ling and the others were confused, but they didn't dare to disobey. They all knelt on the ground and shouted. Don't call me godfather. I don't have an ugly son like you. Jiang Tian frowned in annoyance. Yes, Supreme Patriarch. Lei Bao stood up in fear, but he didn't dare to straighten his back. He bowed like an old eunuch in front of the emperor and asked with a fawning face, How do you want to deal with this? If you want to kill me, I won't say a word. This head of the guards is a bastard. I don't want to see him. Jiang Tian waved his sleeves and said calmly. Xinjiu Ling and the others had offended Jiang Tian. But at the end of the day they were just following orders. Cultivators naturally had to listen to the orders of their sect master and fight for the interests of the sect. But the head of the guards was different. Not only did he offend Jiang Tian, but he also took advantage of his duties to fill his own pockets. Most importantly, he took the money and didn't do anything. No matter how one looked at it, it was disgusting and deserved to die. Yes. Lei Bao bowed respectfully to Jiang Tian and answered. But when facing his disciples he was even more arrogant. He waved his hand casually and said, What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Kill him. I understand. Xinjiu Ling's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. He stood up and raised his hand to slap the guard. Brother-in-law, I don't want to die. Please plead for me. In the miserable begging and screams, the head of the guards was directly blown apart. His broken bones splashed out in the hazy mist of blood before they were turned into ash by the interweaving lightning. Even his soul was gone. Before he died, his face was filled with deep regret and fear. Relying on his position as the guard, he had filled his own pockets more than once or twice. He didn't expect that he would kick an iron plate this time. More importantly, where did this supreme sect master come from? This question was too difficult. He couldn't figure it out even if he racked his brains. It's a crystal marrow anyway. Don't waste it. Jiang Tian smiled casually. He grabbed the storage bag that contained the crystal marrow that Jiang Tian had given him and put it into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. The other guards who offended Jiang Tian didn't have a good ending either. According to the severity of the situation, some were dismembered, some had their cultivation destroyed and some were expelled from the sect. Senior, what should we do next? Lei Bao asked tentatively. Go to the warm Jade-blessed land and kill the ambassadors of the Jade Lake. Then attack the Kanglan world and defeat the army of the Jade Lake. Jiang Tian's expression was calm as he spoke unhurriedly. Well, the general ambassador of the Jade Lake is called the Holy Flame Venerable. He is in the exceptional gold core realm and has formed the Holy Flame Dharmalaksana. He is very powerful. Back then he killed the old sect master Tang Yuan, who was in the 3rd level of the gold core realm. Lei Bao's face turned pale instantly. His hands were trembling slightly as he spoke in fear. Thinking of the terrifying strength of the Holy Flame Venerable, his unpredictable skills, and his overwhelming power, Lei Bao felt a chill in his heart even though it had been a year. Although he had heard that Jiang Tian had killed ancestor Tai Ri, Jiang Tian didn't say how he did it. Perhaps they would join forces to besiege him or launch a sneak attack and poison him, or perhaps they would use a world-shaking array or other foreign objects. Therefore, Lei Bao didn't have confidence in Jiang Tian anymore. Jiang Tian was only in the gold core realm, but the opponent was in the exceptional gold core realm. The exceptional gold core realm. There hadn't been one in the Chia world for hundreds of years. Such strength could even suppress a planet. The gap between Jiang Tian and the opponent was too big. One was in the sky and the other was on the ground. Moreover, the opponent had the home field advantage. Charging over rashly like this was like striking a rock with an egg, an ant trying to shake a tree, and it was simply courting death. Jiang Tian, although Senior Tang Yuan has given me a new life, there is no need to rush revenge. Even Zhang Qianlei felt that it was too risky. I don't even need to do it myself to kill an exceptional gold core realm cultivator. My disciples and followers are enough. Lei Bao, if you are afraid, I don't need you to follow me. Qianlei can lead the way. Jiang Tian's eyes were indifferent as he said indifferently. Before his voice died away, Jiang Tian rolled up his sleeves and took Zhang Qianlei with him. He stepped on the flying sword and rushed toward the warm jade-blessed land like a meteor. This. Looking at Jiang Tian's back, Lei Bao pulled his messy hair in pain. His face was bitter and his mind was in a fierce struggle. Chapter 1338. If they went, their lives would be in danger and they might even be wiped out. But if they didn't go, how could they rely on Jiang Tian? Maybe they would be killed by Jiang Tian's sword. This grand sect leader, what terrifying strength. I'm afraid he is at the middle stage of the gold core realm. He looks like he is in his 30s. How could he be so powerful? Who is he? Xin Jiuling walked around the stone room. He was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Zhao Juran and the other 2 elders were turned into ashes by the lightning. Even the sect's most precious stone pillars and lightning chains were broken. At this moment he couldn't help but feel a wave of lingering fear and secretly rejoice. Fortunately, he had made a prompt decision and performed quite neatly. He had slapped that good-for-nothing brother-in-law of his to death with a single palm strike. If he showed the slightest bit of disobedience or hesitation, he would probably be slapped to death by this young man. However, he was even more scared. Jiang Tian said that he was going to kill the envoys of the Jade Lake. He rushed out and said in a trembling voice, "Sect leader, we can't go. As the saying goes, a gentleman doesn't stand under a collapsing wall. If he goes, he will be killed. We can't get involved. I still think that we should go. Wealth comes from danger. How can we get the tiger cub without entering the tiger's den?" Lei Bao put his hands behind his back and said pretentiously, "I won't tell you that my dantian has been damaged. Without Kong Teichu, no one can repair it. Even the cultivators of the Jade Lake can't do it. Damn, you can't be that stupid, right? Are you out of your mind?" Xin Jiuling was stunned and complained in his heart. However, he didn't dare to say it out loud. He bowed deeply and flattered with a solemn face. "Sect master is wise and has great foresight. This subordinate wholeheartedly agrees with you. I raise both my hands and feet in agreement. As long as we have the leadership of the sect leader, our sect will be prosperous. I am very confident about the future of the sect. I am very motivated." He clenched his fists and waved them in the air, saying passionately, "I'm willing to be a brick. For the sake of revitalizing the sect, I'll go wherever it's needed. With our combined efforts and sect master's wise leadership, I predict that in less than 10 years, our Imperial Thunder sect will definitely regain its former glory, and the Crimson Stone sect will. Good. It's rare for you to have such thoughts. This sect master is very touched. Accompany me to warm jade-blessed land." Suddenly, Lei Bao patted Xin Jiuling's shoulder and smiled. "Fuck, I can't even control my flying sword now. I was just worrying about it, but you're bragging here. You're the one." Xin Jiuling's face suddenly stiffened. and he suddenly revealed a painful expression. He clutched his stomach and said, "Sect Master, I suddenly feel like having diarrhea." "Your mother, you've been fasting for so many years, yet you're still having diarrhea. Even if you have diarrhea, hold it in." Lei Bao cursed loudly. "I'm giving you a chance to make a name for yourself, do you understand? If you don't want to go, then don't go. There are plenty of people who are willing to go." Xin Jiuling was immediately stunned by the thunderstorm. He took out his flying sword and stepped on it. He bitterly said, "Sect Master, please come up." His heart was filled with bitterness and sadness. This was completely risking his life. It was like jumping into a fire pit. But if he didn't jump, there was nothing he could do. Because this place was very unfamiliar. Jiang Tian, Bai Zai, True Dragon Old Ancestor and Ding Ling Dang met up. They didn't fly very fast. As they flew, they observed the spirit vein branches, sects and cities. Jiang Tian had only flown a few hundred miles when Lei Bao and Bai Zai quickly caught up. Jiang Tian ignored the two of them. The flying sword drew a white turbulence in the air as it continued to fly towards warm jade blessed land. A few hours later, the sky was dark and the stars were shining brightly. They had arrived at warm jade blessed land. Warm jade blessed land was not big. It was located in a brightly lit valley. It took up 1,000 acres of land and was very far from large cities like desolate border city. But from afar one would feel that this place was extraordinary. Thousands of rays of light shot out from the ground. Thousands of auspicious lights swirled in the air. Waves of dense fire attribute spirit chi filled the air. Every area, every building, every street corresponded to the spirit chi of the earth veins. They had a wondrous charm. Even the bricks on the streets were carved with countless exquisite runes, forming rune arrays. These were all spirit-guiding rune arrays. They were specially made to absorb the spirit chi of the earth veins. They contained endless power. Within warm jade-blessed land, one could feel the fire and earth elemental spirit chi in the earth veins within a few hundred miles. They gathered over, trembling slightly and ceaselessly. Living here allowed cultivators with fire and earth spirit veins to use the spirit chi that was 10 times more abundant than the outside world. They could quickly improve and make rapid progress. They could also feel the vast power of the earth, fire and earth. They could comprehend the principles and laws of fire and earth to form their own avatars and even forbidden zones. The earth energy gathered here was vast. Only the extremely rare power of stars could compare to this blessed land. It was loved and yearned by all the cultivators of the Crimson Fields. However, this place belonged to the number 1 orthodoxy, the Crimson Stone sect. It was even more noble than the royal gardens. Other than the Crimson Emperor, not many people could enter. They did not even dare to approach it. What extravagance! To gather the aura of the earth veins in the vast continent here, the person who created this blessed land is definitely not someone to be trifled with. Some cultivators who passed by glanced at it from afar. They all shook their heads and sighed in admiration. 3,000 years ago, the strongest sect master of the Crimson Stone sect, the nascent soul ancestor Red Cloud, personally presided over its construction. Beside him, a cultivator sighed in admiration. Other than the long-lived ancestor Red Cloud who could control the power of the earth and mountains, everyone could not help but sigh in admiration at the strength of the heavenly monarch. Ancestor Red Cloud was a living fossil in the Crimson Field world. He stepped into the nascent soul realm 1,000 years ago. He was a man of great talent and great ambition. Back then he suppressed many orthodoxies and finally pushed the Crimson Stone sect to the peak of the continent, looking down on millions of living beings. From then on, a great unified country was established in this world, and it was called the Crimson Light Empire. From the time he, the first Crimson Emperor, started, the Crimson Stone sect was equivalent to the Crimson Field world, and the Crimson Light Empire was equivalent to the Crimson Light Empire. What a pity! Now that the Jade Lake's envoy has arrived, this place has become their backyard. Crimson Field cultivators and dogs are not allowed to enter. A cultivator said hatefully. He would rather be with an outsider than a servant. He bullies his own people and acts so majestically, but when faced with the villains of the Jade Lake he has to bow and scrape. The current Crimson Emperor is truly a disgrace to his country. He is muddle-headed and incompetent. He has completely disgraced his ancestors. Do you want to die? Do you know that if your words spread outside we will all die? A cultivator beside him glanced at the cultivators guarding the blessed land with stern expressions. He could not help but tremble in fear as he shouted in a low voice. Jiang Tian brought by Zai Zhang Qianlei, and the others to a distance of 1.5 kilometers from the blessed land. They immediately felt an enormous suction force. There is a great formation forbidding flying here. Without authorization, flying swords will be attracted by the formation and fall to the ground. Senior, you should come down. Xin Jiuling hurriedly landed on his flying sword and transmitted his voice to Jiang Tian. How could Jiang Tian's absolute heaven sword be stopped by such a crude formation? It could be said that with a swing of Jiang Tian's sword, he could cut this blessed land and the underground formation into ashes. However, Jiang Tian could not be bothered to explain to him. He controlled his flying sword unhurriedly and did not land even when he reached the entrance of the blessed land. Under the escort of a few early-stage Foundation establishment guards, a perfected Foundation establishment commander immediately came forward and shouted coldly. His Majesty the Crimson Emperor's personal guards are here. Who dares to fly recklessly and do not know the immensity of heaven and earth? Come down quickly. Just as Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with killing intent and was about to kill someone, Lei Lei had already flown over. He bowed and cupped his fists. Commander Imo, don't be angry. These are the new consecrators of my Imperial Thunder sect. It's their first time here and they don't know the rules. Give me some face. So it's Sect Master Lei Bao. I'll give you some face. However, next time you have to make it clear in advance or else I won't be able to explain myself. Commander Mo cupped his fists like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water and said with a fake smile, However, Sect Master Lei Bao, why are you here? Commander Mo, I'm also here for an important matter. Lei Bao took out a fiery red crystal and handed it over without a trace. He pointed at Zhang Qianlei who was beside Jiang Tian and smiled apologetically. After my torture, this Zhang Qianlei is finally ready to confess. Venerable Xinghua has been wanting to know about him for a long time. Today, Crown Prince Huangqi is here in person to discuss important matters with Venerable Xinghua. I'm afraid it's a bit inconvenient. This Commander Mo and Xin Jiuling's brother-in-law were the same. They also liked to use chicken feathers as arrows to extort people. Moreover, it was not enough to extort them once, they would extort them a few more times. Bai Zai was annoyed and shouted coldly, Absolute beginning ruler, true dragon, do we have to talk so much nonsense with this kind of ant? Just kill him. Who are you calling an ant? Who do you want to kill? Commander Mo's eyes turned as he stared coldly at Jiang Tian and the others. His eyes revealed ghastly viciousness and killing intent as he berated, Idiot, do you know where this place is? Do you know who you are talking to? He was the leader of the royal guards and had a very special identity. Although his official position was not high, he had great authority. After all, this was a place where politics and religion were united. Usually, those nobles, ministers, officials, and even the masters of big sects and wealthy families like Lei Bao had to give him some face and did not dare to act rashly. The people in front of him were just a few consecrators of the small Imperial Thunder sect. Moreover, judging from their cultivation, they were just at the Foundation establishment realm. How dare they speak rudely to him? They were simply courting death. How dare you be disrespectful to Commander Mo? Kill them without mercy. Lei Bao, how did you teach your subordinates to manage the sect? You let these vicious dogs bite people. We don't have to do it. I'm afraid that a mere Foundation establishment realm cultivator will dirty the hands of our guards. Just clean up the sect. As soon as he flew into a rage, the remaining hundreds of guards sensed it and swarmed over. With swords in hand, they surrounded Jiang Tian and the others. Some of them shouted angrily, while others mocked them in a sarcastic manner. You're courting death. Don't blame me. Lei Bao sighed and shook his head regretfully, taking a few steps back. In fact, he did not have any deep hatred with these guards and even had a good relationship with some of them. That was why he tried to persuade them. However, Commander Mo and the others were courting death and they could not stop them. What could they do? Chapter 1339. What a noisy thing. Go to hell. Jiang Tian shook his head and chuckled. What was wrong with him today? He kept arguing with the guards. Suddenly, his eyes became cold and he waved his hand without saying a word. Whoosh, whoosh. There seemed to be a flash of black lightning in the sky and a dazzling golden line flashed. The golden line was extremely thin, but it was extremely sharp. The black lightning was apparently a space crack. whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The guards, including Commander Mo, didn't even have time to scream before they were torn apart and fell to the ground. The broken limbs splashed bright red. Even the cultivators in the distance who hadn't arrived in time were killed in an instant. What a powerful and sharp true essence. Seeing this, Lei Bao shuddered a few more times. His heart was cold to the core. To a golden core cultivator, condensing qi into a weapon was child's play. But there were also differences in the level of condensing qi into a weapon. There weren't many people in the Crimson Wild World who could directly slice through space like Zhang Tian. At this time, Bai Zhe and Jinlong had already flown into the warm jade-blessed land. Several powerhouses at the early stage of the Gold Core realm who were responsible for guarding this place and hiding in the array formation and secret sentry posts were quietly killed by the two of them. Zhang Qianlei was shocked again when he saw this scene with his divine sense. Not only was Jiang Tian powerful, but Jiang Tian's followers were also very powerful. They were far more powerful than him. Master, the overlords outside have been eliminated. There are only some mortals left. You can go to the hall now. True Dragon hid in the dark and used a concealment technique. He bowed and said respectfully with his divine sense. Bai Zhe stood on the dragon's spine in a hall, bathed in the starlight. His long robe fluttered in the wind and his eyes were shining as he vigilantly glanced into the distance. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and scanned with his divine sense. Then he took Ding Lingdang, Zhang Qianlei and the others to the hall in the center. This palace was the tallest and most majestic of all, like a crane in a flock of chickens. The spiritual qi gathered here was also the densest. Under the surging spiritual qi of the earth veins, the Crimson Palace shone brightly as if it were an immortal palace. And in the center of this palace, there was another loft that towered into the clouds. On the signboard of the pavilion, the words Fireground Pavilion were written in a dazzling manner. This place was the center of the warm jade-blessed land. The earth lung fire spirit qi and the earth vein thick earth spirit qi from all directions turned into ribbons, surging up from the ground and the formation, pouring into it and firmly protecting this pavilion. The earth lung fire spiritual qi and thick earth qi here were so dense that they were almost tangible. Like silk ribbons they spat out and intertwined in the air. Here, every day an earth or fire cultivator cultivated here was equivalent to a month outside. Even the Crimson Stone sect that dominated this world treated this place as a holy land. And at this time the upper echelons of the Huang family that controlled this world, the Crimson Stone sect's elders, reverends, and the important ministers and generals of the Crimson Light Empire were all gathered here under the lead of Crown Prince Huang Qi to meet the Jade Pool's chief envoy, Venerable Sacred Flame. Venerable Sacred Flame, it is our honor to be willing to stay in this desolate land. We must congratulate you on absorbing the earth fire of warm jade-blessed land, successfully refining the fire of yin-yang of heaven and earth, and successfully forming your nascent soul. This junior will drink first as a sign of respect. Crown Prince Huang Qi was an early golden core cultivator. His face was crimson red and demonic flames danced in his pupils. Flames lingered around him, burning the space to the point that it crackled. He was like a god of fire sitting upright. At this moment he respectfully held a cup with both hands and toasted an old man who was sitting at the top like the sun. As the future ruler of the Crimson Field world, Crown Prince Huang Qi could make the entire Crimson Field world tremble with a stomp of his feet. He was the top existence in this world. However, he was still respectful to Venerable Sacred Flame at the top like a believer meeting a true god. This old man was Venerable Sacred Flame. He came from the Jade Pool world and was a vice sect master of the Blazing Fire sect, a Heaven Monarch sect. He was powerful and had just broken through to the nascent soul realm. He came here as a special envoy to represent the Jade Pool's Azure Emperor. Huang Qi, of course I understand your filial piety. I originally planned to bring you to the Blazing Fire sect. Venerable Sacred Flame gently sipped his wine cup and smiled. However, Qin Liuhe has been killed and His Majesty Azure Emperor is furious. Your actions of not opening the teleportation formation to the Stellar Sky Domain and taking in the refugees of the Stellar Sky Domain have already reached His Majesty Azure Emperor. This is making things very difficult for me. Please allow me to report, Venerable. Crown Prince Huang Qi hurriedly got up and knelt on the ground with a troubled expression. The Stellar Sky Domain and Qi Yi have already signed an alliance agreement to resist foreign invasions. We didn't expect them to offend the Jade Pool world, and we are also heartbroken. However, opening the teleportation formation is tantamount to tearing up the agreement. Word gets out. Crown Prince Huangqi in the cultivation world, the weak are ants and can be trampled on by others. This is the truth of justice. Venerable Sacred Flame smiled. History is written by the victors. 100 years later, Bai Zhe and Ding Lai will turn into ashes. Who will still remember them? His Majesty Azure Emperor said that we are only taking over the Stellar Sky domain to avenge His Majesty Liuhe. As long as you open the teleportation formation, we can give you the entire Stellar Sky domain. We can even give you half of the Kanglan world that we have already taken over. Are you serious? Crown Prince Huangqi's eyes flashed with greed and excitement. This was a huge temptation that was hard to resist. After the formation was repaired, the spirit chi in the Jade Pool world was rich and stable, suitable for cultivation. It was far superior to the 4th grade worlds like the Kanglan world and Qi world. It was even comparable to the 3rd grade worlds like the Dragon Gate and Jade Pool. If Crown Prince Huangqi took over this domain, he would obtain endless resources and benefits. His cultivation would improve rapidly and his authority would be unparalleled. Even among the past realm lords of the Qi world. He was the first to conquer a world from another dimension, surpassing his ancestors and creating history. His name would go down in history and shine in the annals of history. Crown Prince Huangqi, the Stellar Sky domain is such a poor and remote place. How can such a small territory enter the eyes of our Jade Pool cultivators? Venerable Sacred Flames smiled disdainfully. But I agree. Crown Prince Huangqi gritted his teeth and nodded. Then he smiled coldly. Why don't I give the order to kill all the Stellar Sky domain people in the Stellar Sky domain's refugee camp? I will use them as a sacrifice. Huangqi, I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. However, I like it. Looking down on the world and treating human lives like grass, ruthless and heartless. This is the true nature of us cultivators. Venerable Holy Flame first laughed out loud, then snorted with a cold look in his eyes. That Kong Teichu killed His Highness Lu He and ancestral patriarch Tai Ri with his own hands. With his strength, he must have used some despicable means to kill them. However, he is just an ant from Earth. How dare he challenge the supreme dignity of the Jade Lake world? I will capture him and bring him to the Jade Lake. Then I will cut him into pieces and dismember him into thousands of pieces. I will use this to announce to the multidimensional worlds that the Jade Lake world will never be humiliated. You don't have to capture him. I'm already here. Jiang Tian's faint voice suddenly sounded in the pavilion. Venerable Sacred Flame's voice stopped abruptly. He looked at the door in disbelief and his eyes trembled slightly. There were layers of guards, arrays and restrictions here. How did Jiang Tian and the others get in? Sect Mastery, he's Kong Teichu? Kong Teichu from the Earth domain. Are you sure? At this moment, Xin Jiling was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. He was trembling in fear and his face was as white as a sheet. He almost cried. Xin Jiling had never figured out Jiang Tian's identity. He thought that he was some great expert, so he mustered up his courage to follow him. However, he didn't expect it to be Kong Teichu. He was just an ant from the Earth domain. The orthodoxy of the Earth domain had long been destroyed, and the spirit chi had withered. How could it nurture a top-notch expert? How could Jiang Tian have the strength to fight Venerable Sacred Flame, who was at the perfected Gold Core realm? This was simply a joke. That's right. He's Kong Teichu, the ruler of the Stellar Sky domain. Lei Bao couldn't back down now. He might as well act tough to the end. He stood behind Jiang Tian, straightened his back and shouted. Venerable Sacred Flame Huangqi, why aren't you kneeling down and surrendering? The absolute beginning ruler is merciful and will spare your lives. Lei Bao, how dare you betray me? A trace of anger appeared on Crown Prince Huangqi's face. His eyes were shooting out flames of anger as he said coldly. Huangqi, call me your mother. I respect you, so I call you Crown Prince. If I don't respect you, you're just an early-stage gold core trash. Lei Bao's tit-for-tat roar was like a thunderclap. How did I betray you? My Imperial Thunder Sect was the #1 orthodoxy back then. This world belonged to us. Your Huang clan and Crimson Stone sect were just bandits who took by force. Now you have the nerve to talk about loyalty, filial piety and benevolence. You're shameless. But it's different now. The absolute beginning ruler is here. We're going to take back everything that belongs to us. Ah, good, good, good. I'll see how long you can last. You're relying on an ant from the earth as your backer. What a joke. Crown Prince Huangqi was so angry that he laughed. What a joke. If you ask me, you're the joke. Ding Ling Dang took a step forward. Her face was as cold as frost. She said angrily, "You actually broke our previous agreement and want to kill the refugees of the Stellar Sky domain. Has your conscience been eaten by a dog?" 1,000 years ago, when the Saint Sect Master was still alive, the Qi world was invaded by the outer space. At that time, the Stellar Sky domain gave the Qi world a lot of aid and let you enter this world to take refuge. But now you're repaying kindness with enmity for your own selfish interests. You're going back on your word. Don't you feel guilty? Aren't you afraid of retribution? Aren't you afraid that one day you'll be invaded by the Jade Lake world? This silly girl. At the side, Jiang Tian heard this and laughed faintly. This girl was very pure and had a pure heart. She had a strong sense of justice and was very clear about gratitude and grudges. She hated Crown Prince Huangqi's actions to the bone. Some of her words and actions were laughable, but Jiang Tian felt that she was very cute sometimes. Haha, I won't feel guilty. Crown Prince Huangqi had a shameless face and laughed. I'm not afraid of retribution because we have the strength to deal with it. The Jade Lake world is our backer. Why would they invade us? You, on the other hand, should think about your pitiful fate. Crown Prince Huangqi sneered and mocked. Everyone is looking for a backer. But my backer is the Jade Lake world's Emperor Chen Qing. But you're looking for an ant from the Earth domain. You have eyes but can't see. He cast a disdainful glance at Jiang Tian as if victory was already in his grasp. Full of confidence, he tried his best to mock Jiang Tian. Kong Teichu, a golden core realm cultivator, dares to barge into the tiger's den alone. Don't you know that Supreme Xinghua is here? It's like a grain of rice can't compete with the sun and moon. You're courting death. Chapter 1340. So what? Of course I know. I'm not afraid of you. I've already made him kneel down. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear me? Lei Bao yelled again. Xin Jiling was so scared that he almost jumped up. He pulled him back a few steps and lamented in his mind. Sect Master, can you stop being so arrogant in a fight between gods? You don't have the right to talk at this time. He can kill you with a wave of his hand. He didn't know that Lei Bao's Dantian had already been destroyed by Jiang Tian. His life was nothing to him. He only had to perform well in front of Jiang Tian to get the chance to rebuild his Dantian. However, he had lost all his power and couldn't fight, so he could only talk to show his loyalty to Jiang Tian. Your Kong Teichu. Compared to Crown Prince Huangqi, Venerable Sacred Flame was much more rational and calm. He calmly and carefully examined Jiang Tian for a long time, sweeping him with his divine sense. He then said, "If you know what's good for you, surrender and go to the Jade Lake with me. His Majesty the Azure the Arch will only kill you and your family, then torture your souls for 100 years to comfort His Majesty Liuhe and the brave souls of the Jade Lake. However, with his magnanimity he probably won't exterminate the creatures of the Earth realm after venting his anger. He will allow them to live as the lowest-level slaves of the heavenly Dao sect of the Jade Lake realm, which will preserve some of their roots." In truth, Jiang Tian had killed old ancestor Tai Ri and Chen Liuhe after all. An old monster like old ancestor Tai Ri was naturally wary of Jiang Tian. However, after looking at Jiang Tian for a while, he found that Jiang Tian was only an early-stage golden core cultivator. After confirming this, he was relieved. No matter how strong an early-stage golden core cultivator was, he was still too weak to fight with a nascent soul cultivator. He looked down at Chen Fan as if he were looking at an ant and said with extreme arrogance, as if he were a gift from God, "Have you lost your mind? He wants me to commit suicide to atone for my sins. I'm afraid that if Emperor Chen Qing was in front of me, he could only lower his head and beg for forgiveness." Jiang Tian's face was calm as he chuckled. "You, a mere exceptional gold core realm cultivator, dare to be so rash. You really don't know what death is. Originally, I wanted to give you a chance to turn over a new leaf and let you be a dog that bites people before you set foot on Earth. But now there's no need for that anymore. You're not even qualified to be my dog." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Apart from the people from the Stellar Sky domain, everyone else was shocked and in disbelief. A mere first-level golden core cultivator dared to be so arrogant towards a nascent soul cultivator, saying that the latter wasn't even fit to be a dog. Kangtu, you are courting death. Supremacy Xinghua was furious. His dantian rumbled as monstrous flames rose from his body. His aura was fully released as he raised his hand to kill Jiang Tian. After all, he was a vice-sect master of the Blazing Fire sect and had already formed his nascent soul. In the past he could even talk to Emperor Qinqing and talk to those heavenly lords as equals. When had he ever suffered such disrespect and humiliation? He's just a first-level golden core realm cultivator. He's like an ant. There's no need for supremacy to personally take action. This junior is enough to kill him. At this moment, an old man with a heavy aura took a few steps forward and approached Jiang Tian. He was full of mockery. He looked at Jiang Tian with a mocking expression and said with a smile, "I'm Crimson Light Empire's state preceptor Wei Yu. At the same time, I'm also the elder of imparting arts of the Crimson Stone sect. Today I'll kill you with one palm so that you, an opportunist who fishes for fame, will know that there's always someone better out there." Wei Yu was already at the perfected stage of the Golden Core realm. His strength was not far from Supremacy Xinghua's. In the Crimson Field world he was also a top figure. His words carried enormous weight and his status was high. He knew that ever since Jiang Tian killed Qin Liuhe and Patriarch Binding Sun, his fame had spread throughout the Jade Lake world. However, he had the same thought as Supremacy Xinghua. He also believed that Jiang Tian was only at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. He believed that his judgment was not wrong. As for how Jiang Tian killed Patriarch Binding Sun, it was simple. He might have used some kind of underhanded method to win. After all, there was too little news from the Stellar Sky domain. There was only the result, not the process or details. Of course, no matter what, Jiang Tian's name had spread throughout the Jade Lake after killing Patriarch Binding Sunday. It had spread throughout the Kanglan domain and the Crimson Field world. As long as he killed Jiang Tian, he would become famous in one battle. Fame was secondary. More importantly, Emperor Qinqing also thought highly of him and would give him endless benefits. Before he could finish speaking, his dantian had already rumbled and trembled. He struck out with his palm. This palm strike was like a meteor striking the stars and thousands of mountains stacked on top of each other. The incomparably thick and vast earth vein aura swept out like raging waves crashing against the shore, forming a huge continuous mountain range. The peaks stacked on top of each other and pressed down on Jiang Tian. 10,000 peaks and 1,000 mountains palm. Someone exclaimed. The Crimson Stone sect was known for its earth elemental and fire elemental cultivation techniques. Most of its disciples had these two types of bone frames and body constitutions. For example, the warm Jade Blessed Land was a place where Red Cloud Patriarch spent 100 years to personally set up a formation. It gathered the fire elemental and earth elemental essence energy within a few hundred miles. It allowed the disciples of the sect to improve rapidly. That was why it was treated as a sacred ground. Huang Qi cultivated and absorbed the fire of the earth lung. His Li fire could incinerate gold and iron, dry rivers and dry up oceans. Meanwhile, State Preceptor Wei Yu was known for his earth elemental cultivation techniques. Legend had it that since 300 years ago he had absorbed the earth elemental essence from a 10,000-foot tall mountain every year. After 300 years he had already absorbed the earth elemental essence from hundreds of mountains and condensed the mountain peak Dharma idol. When he struck out with his palm, strange peaks and steep ridges appeared one after another. The mountain range stretched out continuously, smashing through the void and seeking the earth. It was not difficult for it to destroy cities and countries. With this ultimate technique he dominated the Crimson Field world for 200 years. He was invincible and revered as the state preceptor. He was second only to a few people and above billions of people. Once this palm strike is used, even a perfected golden core would have to suffer, let alone a mere first-level golden core cultivator. Some cultivators sighed. He thought that he could be invincible after killing Patriarch Binding Sun with schemes and tricks. Who knew that cultivators still have to rely on their own abilities? He can win for a while with tricks, but he can't win for a lifetime. Someone mocked. Just as a smug and mocking smile appeared on Crown Prince Huang Qi's face. Chila chila, several light sounds rang out. When the mountains were still 10 meters away from Jiang Tian, they suddenly split apart and turned into a cool breeze that blew past Jiang Tian's face. Jiang Tian's long robe fluttered and flew straight up. "What's going on?" Everyone exclaimed and was dumbfounded. A golden core Dharma idol was indestructible and could pierce through iron. Especially Wei Yu's mountain Dharma idol, it was known for its unparalleled ferocity, thickness and indestructibility. How could it suddenly collapse and in such a silent manner? "What's this?" Even Crown Prince Huangqi looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He had never seen or even heard of such a situation. Is it a forbidden zone? After all, only a forbidden zone can split the dimension and break apart a Dharma form without making a sound. Even the eyes of Sacred Flame the Reverend and the other cultivators of the Jade Lake froze as they thought of a terrifying possibility. Impossible. But a second later they completely rejected this idea. Only nascent soul cultivators could form a forbidden zone and only the most talented nascent soul cultivators could do it. A first-level golden core cultivator had touched the laws of heaven and earth and understood a forbidden zone. It was like a 3-year-old moving a mountain. It had never happened in the Jade Lake, the second-level dimension and the ruins of deity, not to mention the Jade Lake. Let's see how I'll kill you." Wei Yu frowned at first, then snorted coldly. He stepped into the air and punched out fiercely from above. Go! Boom! The air shook and there was a roar as if there was an earthquake. A towering mountain that was 10 times heavier than before rushed out of his dantian and pressed down like a vast continent. The entire pavilion, the endless halls below and even the area 10 miles around shook violently as if they were about to collapse. While Crown Prince Huangqi and the others nodded and were about to watch Jiang Tian die, Jiang Tian said calmly, "Even a nascent soul cultivator can't hurt me with just a Dharma form." As he spoke, Jiang Tian lightly stretched out his hand and didn't utilize any magic energy or true essence. The lofty mountain actually ceaselessly shrunk, and in the end, it was like a miniature bonsai that lightly floated into Jiang Tian's palm. It was green and cute and didn't pose the slightest threat. After Jiang Tian formed the golden core, he had mastered the divine power of Tao Tai, which allowed him to control space and all energy and matter, not to mention a Dharma form. Even nascent soul cultivators had to rely on supreme true artifacts or forbidden zones to fight with him. How could they fight with a Dharma form? How is that possible? This time everyone was completely shocked. Is he controlling or a forbidden zone? Overlord Shenhua and the other cultivators were especially shocked. Jiang Tian's method was very similar to the forbidden zones of some nascent soul cultivators, and it was even more powerful. As for Crown Prince Huangqi, he was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. Wei Yu's powerful Dharma form was controlled by Jiang Tian. It was like a joke. Retreat. At this instant, Wei Yu's heart was filled with warning signs, and he seemed as if he was facing a great enemy. He stepped on the sky like a dancing dragon, and he practically tore space apart as he retreated swiftly like a bolt of lightning and a shooting star. He wasn't a fool. When he couldn't see through Jiang Tian's cultivation art, he immediately realized the danger. He killed Jiang Tian to show off. Since he couldn't, there was no need to force it and let someone stronger do it. There was no need to lose his life. However, he forgot that if he failed to show off, he would often be struck by lightning. Go! Jiang Tian snorted and flicked his finger. At this moment, the vast mountain had already been compressed to the size of a small pebble under the ultimate convergence and compression. However, this stone was heavier than a mountain. It was as heavy as the Milky Way crystal sand and could pierce through anything. Even a nascent soul realm cultivator would find it difficult to deal with it. Not to mention that Wei Yu was only a perfected golden core cultivator. With a swish, this small rock instantly pierced through Wei Yu's dantian and even shattered his golden core with a single strike, causing it to fly out while carrying a ghastly and gorgeous spray of blood. And then it pierced through the wall and blasted apart 3 kilometers tall mountains in the distance before finally stopping. This Grand Tutor of the Crimson Light Empire, Wei Yu, who had dominated this world and was invincible for hundreds of years, had a face full of horror before he died. He used his dipper steps and wanted to activate his Dharma idol to defend himself, but he died just like that. Chapter 1341. Jiang Tian had killed a peak-stage golden core grand perfected Immortal, the imperial advisor of the Crimson Light dynasty. Everyone was shocked. Seeing this scene, whether it was the golden core true immortals of the Qi country, the noble envoys from the Jade Lake or even venerable Xinghua himself, all of them were shocked and terrified and they all took a step back. They had never thought that Zhang Tian, a first-level golden core cultivator, could kill a golden core perfected immortal with a finger. This was simply like a legend, a fantasy story. It was too inconceivable. Don't kill me. Crown Prince Huangqi was so frightened that his legs trembled. His eyes were filled with despair as his knees went soft and he wanted to kneel towards Zhang Tian. As the crown prince and the future ruler of this world, he was naturally powerful and his words carried weight. However, he relied on the protection of his family and sect. In terms of strength, there was still a huge gap between him and Wei Yu. How could he survive if the finger was pointed at his head? Crown Prince Huangqi. But then Lord Xinhua glared at him, which made Crown Prince Huangqi tremble, and he didn't dare to move anymore. If he surrendered to Zhang Tian now, he would also die. How could Lord Xinhua and the others let him go? That's it. He used the Forbidden Zone. He has the strength of a nascent soul cultivator. No wonder he could kill ancestral patriarch Binding Sun. Maybe he has a superior grade golden core. Lord Xinhua and the other envoys from Jade Lake were shocked, and they talked with their immortal will as if they were facing a formidable enemy. That's right, he has the strength of a nascent soul cultivator. You're only scared now, right? Ding Lingdang looked at Crown Prince Huangqi mockingly and mocked him. Do you still think your backer is powerful? Who's the one who's blind? That's right. Lord Xinhua is just a nascent soul cultivator. Our Grand Sect Master Kong Teichu can kill him easily. You said we're ants, but I think you and the Jade Lake are bumpkins. Lei Bao secretly wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and let out a sigh. Then he started to mock them again. At this moment he realized that he had made the right bet, at least for this round. This Kong Teichu was too monstrous. He was simply inhuman. For a Golden Core Level 1 cultivator to kill a Golden Core Grand True Immortal with just a flick of his finger, no one would believe it. But he didn't know. Before Zhang Tian condensed the Golden Core Divine Disc, or even when he was still in the Foundation Establishment realm, he had already killed countless Golden Core cultivators in Heavenly Star, Heavenly Country, West Earth and other worlds. For Zhang Tian, who had formed the chaotic divine body and the divine disc, killing Golden Core cultivators was as easy as flicking a whisk. Seeing how powerful Zhang Tian was, even Xin Jiuling, who had been so scared that he wanted to run away, straightened his back and sighed in his heart. Damn it! Let's fight them. It's better to be the master of the sect than to be the dog of the Jade Lake. At this time, Crown Prince Huangqi couldn't say a word and didn't dare to say anything. He couldn't help but feel regret. If he had known that Kong Teichu was so powerful, he would have been completely neutral. He wouldn't have said that he was going to open the teleportation array. Lord Xinhua, do you still need me to do it? If you destroy your own cultivation and surrender to me, I'll spare your life. At this time, Zhang Tian said calmly with his hands behind his back, as if killing Wei Yu was as easy as crushing an ant. Now Zhang Tian was also in need of manpower. There were too many overlords in the Jade Lake. It was better to subdue them than to kill them. Subduing one of them would give him more power. Kong Teichu, how dare you? Lord Xinhua snorted and said coldly with narrowed eyes, I admit that I was wrong before. I admit that I was wrong before. You Zhang Taichu are indeed an amazing talent. You are only at the first level of the Golden Core realm, but you can kill someone with the exceptional Golden Core realm. It seems that you must have condensed a superior grade Golden Core. Zhang Tian didn't say anything. A superior grade Golden Core? What kind of rubbish was that? However, the ridicule on Venerable Holy Flame's face was thick to the extreme. However, Kong Teichu, if you think that I'm the only nascent soul envoy of the ruins of immortals, then you're very wrong. His eyes flashed fiercely like Mr. Zhuge, who was confident of victory, and he said mockingly, His Majesty the Azure the Arch is wise and resourceful. He has long predicted that the Chia field and the Stellar Sky field are connected. It's very likely that you'll come here to wipe out the rear. So, we've already set up 3 nascent soul ancestral patriarchs here, waiting for you to walk into the trap. Today you won't be able to escape. Oh no. Hearing this, Bai Zhe, who was standing guard outside and standing on the roof of the hall, suddenly looked into the distance and his face changed. There's an ambush. Ancestor Zhenlong's face also became unprecedentedly serious, as if he was facing a great enemy. At this time they saw, at the end of the vast wasteland, a dragon-like figure 100 feet tall rose up and flew 100 miles in one step. This figure was apparently a man covered in dragon scales, with a giant rhinoceros head and two peerless heavenly swords in his hands. On his broad shoulders stood a black-clothed, black-haired, fox-like woman. Her chest was high, her waist was slender, and she was hot and sexy. Her long black hair was like silk, and it scattered in the wind like a waterfall. The bloodline of the Emperor of Dragons is very pure and has a lifespan of at least 1,000 years. She must be the ancestor of Hu Songhai and Hu Yuanjia. Jiang Tian didn't panic at all. He scanned with his immortal will and said, "This woman has the bloodline of the Black Dragon clan. This woman has the bloodline of the thousand-tailed black fox. She is not young either. Xin Lang should be her root?" Jiang Tian looked through a few hundred miles and saw the two overlords. One was at the third level of the nascent soul realm and the other was at the second level. They might be a bit more powerful than ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, but they were still just early-stage nascent soul cultivators. However, this was enough to make Lei Bao, Shen Jioling and Crown Prince Huangqi dumbfounded. Nascent soul cultivators. Rumor had it that their words were the law and they could control forbidden areas. They were invincible in the forbidden areas. They were as terrifying as the heavens. Once they entered the nascent soul realm, they could lift up the sky with one hand. However, it was extremely difficult to reach the nascent soul realm. It was even harder to reach the nascent soul realm. Ever since ancestral patriarch Xianxia entered the nascent soul realm, there hadn't been another nascent soul cultivator in the Qi world for thousands of years. And there hadn't been a nascent soul cultivator in the Tianxing world for thousands of years after the death of the heavenly god sect master. Moreover, it was one thing if they didn't come, but when they did, two of them came at once. This was truly a little too terrifying. You want to be my enemy with just these? Is a forbidden area that powerful in your eyes? I can break it as easily as tearing a piece of paper. Jiang Tian sneered and mocked. Hearing this, there was dead silence in the building. Everyone was shocked. Kong Teichu was too arrogant. These were two nascent soul heavenly lords from the Jade Lake world. Couldn't they suppress him? Kong Teichu, you are indeed powerful and can kill ancestral patriarch Tai Ri and his majesty Lu He. However, if we weren't confident, we wouldn't have allowed you to enter this world. We would have closed the teleportation array. Since you're allowed to enter, why are there only two heavenly lords? Watch carefully. Xin Jingjing, the deputy family lord of the Xin family, stood on Hushi's shoulder and smiled. Her voice was coquettish and soft, pleasing to the ear, yet it contained boundless ghastly killing intent. Moreover, it contained vast amounts of magic energy, causing its penetrative force to be extremely strong. Even from 50 kilometers away, it could be clearly heard as if it was by one's ear. There's more. Everyone was shocked. Is it too late to betray the Jade Lake in the Qi world? This is a deadly trap. Lei Bao was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. He quickly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, but it didn't dry. He started to regret jumping too high. After all, the Jade Lake had too many tricks up their sleeves. Shen Jioling's face was full of bitterness. He knew that things wouldn't be so simple. Now, as expected, boom, an enormous treasured carriage that was over 1,500 m in length. There were pavilions, pagodas, 9 winding corridors and continuous palaces connected together. There were rockery and grotesque rocks in great numbers, and it was like an imperial garden that could fly. It swallowed and emitted multicolored mist as it soared through the sky. Both the carriage and the palaces were inlaid with countless pearls and jade, and there were all kinds of high-level talismans such as wind-controlling talismans, fire-repelling talismans and lightning-arresting talismans. This carriage could withstand the attack of a nascent soul cultivator and was a supreme-grade true artifact. It was a few levels higher than Duanmu Si's treasure ship. However, the most eye-catching thing on the carriage was a red mountain made of red marrow crystals. On top of the crimson mountain peak, a strange beast that looked like both a lion and a tiger, with a pair of wings and an awe-inspiring evil aura roaring towards the heavens. This is my father's carriage. Is he here too? Huangqi was surprised. As expected, before he could finish speaking, a middle-aged man wearing a yellow robe with 9 dragons and a golden chainmail on the outside and a crown on his head walked out of the palace with a red stone stamp in his hand. It was the realm lord of this world, the emperor of the Crimson Emperor dynasty Huang Qianzhong. Huang Qi was shocked and was about to greet him. However, he saw Huang Qianzhong and a few golden core cultivators of the Crimson Stone sect bow deeply after they walked out, as if they were waiting for someone important to come out. At this time an old man in a washed red robe with graying sideburns and a steel-like beard, with a rough appearance slowly walked out of a palace. The old cultivator exuded a torrential domineering aura and was upright and dignified, just like Xianxia. Greetings, Ancestor Hongxia. Seeing this old cultivator, Huang Qi and a few other members of the royal family were shocked. They hurriedly took a few steps forward and knelt on the ground with tears streaming down their faces. Idiot, get up. The old man in red sighed softly. However, his voice traveled hundreds of kilometers and reached everyone's ears clearly. He's the Ancestor Hongxia who wiped out the Imperial Thunder sect and 10 other great sects with a single sword 1,000 years ago, completely suppressing this world. Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Compared to Kong Teichu, this Ancestor Hongxia was much more famous in this world. Back then the Imperial Thunder sect was the #1 orthodoxy. He killed thousands of Imperial Thunder sect's elites with his own strength, causing the Imperial Thunder sect to become a second or third-rate sect. The reason why the Crimson Light dynasty was able to rule this world was because of him alone. He even created most of the Earth-type and Fire-type cultivation methods. He replaced the original Lightning-type cultivation methods and became the mainstream. A cultivation holy land like Warm Jade Blessed Land was also set up and created by him. Now, the thousands of sects and countless living beings of the Crimson Stone sect respected and feared the Crimson Stone sect. They all missed Ancestor Hongxia.